844-94-BIBLE. That's 844-94-BIBLE. 844-94-BIBLE.
Paid for by Christian Care Ministry.
We tried Dynovite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
She posted about us just now.
Celebrities can't get enough of Biana's bespoke skincare line.
She has 147 million followers. How do we monetize?
She needs a social media associate to help her with the hype.
We should repost this. Do we need a hashtag?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Columbo and Katie.
Thursday marks 12 days to the election, and it's been a busy week as politicians across the country try to earn your vote. We'll talk about it with Crane Durham, and White House correspondent Christian Daytalk joins us at 2:25.
Weekdays at 2 on NewstalkSTL.
Crime, corrupt public officials in City Hall, residents moving out of St. Louis City at a rapid pace, all due to the one-party rule that's damaging the city of St. Louis. Navy veteran Republican Robert Crump is running for State Representative District 82 to make a difference. Crump will use no-nonsense, just common sense, conservative solutions to solve our city's problems. On Election Day, make your vote count. Vote for Navy veteran Robert Crump for State Representative.
Paid for by Citizens for Crump 2022, Mary Teresa McLean, Treasurer.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Columbo and Katie.
When is the timeline of an announcement like that appropriately expected?
First off, if it was not Donald Trump, I would tell you that it would happen probably next spring, late winter, early spring. Donald Trump doesn't do things traditionally. No. I would argue, it would not surprise me that he would, if he were to announce, between the election and the end of the year.
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on NewstalkSTL.
I'm Ryan Higgins, and I approve this message. Our state needs fresh faces in government. That's why I'm running for state representative, to support and fully fund law enforcement and to give parents a bigger voice in their son and daughter's education. Also, as the son of a small business owner, I will make protecting small business a priority. Finally, and certainly not lastly, I will fight for our middle class that has been hit so hard the past 2 years. I know our future is bright, but the time is now to elect common sense candidates. I'm Ryan Higgins, and I'm running for the state representative from Missouri's 98th House District.
Paid for by Higgins from Missouri. Megan Higgins, Treasurer.
Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis.
Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is NewstalkSTL.
You guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for covering the local angle.
Come on, people. This is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
NewstalkSTL at 1019, 94.1, and NewstalkSTL.com.
Critical races.
I'll keep it simple with insight and perspective you won't get anywhere else. Join me for Kaylee's Midterm Countdown.
Streaming live weeknights at 6, only on FoxNation.com.
Now, a look at what's happening from the Fox News Rundown.
Good morning. It's Thursday, October 27th, 2022. I'm Gary Baumgarten on the Fox News Rundown. President Biden travels to Syracuse today to discuss manufacturing. Fox's Ryan Schmelz with details.
President Biden will give a speech on the U.S. company Micron Technology's plan to invest in chips manufacturing in upstate New York. The White House says the company plans to construct the largest semiconductor manufacturing facility in the U.S. and will create tens of thousands of jobs. The president is likely to tout the Bipartisan CHIPS Act, which was an investment to surge production of American-made semiconductors. The White House says the investment from Micron is expected to be up to $100 billion over 20 years. The president will speak at Onondaga Community College. It's a region President Biden is familiar with. He attended law school at Syracuse University. Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
Georgia U.S. Senate candidate Herschel Walker will hold a rally in Cumming, Georgia today. He'll be joined by South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham and Texas Senator Ted Cruz. The rally comes on the heels of new public allegations Walker paid for and insisted upon an abortion from a second woman, the result of a long-time extramarital relationship in the 1990s. I'm Gary Baumgarten on the Fox News Rundown.
This is the Fox News Rundown.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and NewstalkSTL.com. St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
I think they're trying to attack the American people.
Live and local.
Gabe, Mike, Ken, you guys are my morning cup of mental coffee. I love the show. Definitely a convert from the old one.
This is News Talk STL.
The Range St. Louis West is Missouri's best indoor shooting range. With 20 climate-controlled lanes, over 70 firearms available to rent, and the best staff in the business, you're guaranteed to enjoy every minute of your time with us. Our impressive showroom is full of the latest and greatest offerings from the best manufacturers in the business. Need an optic, spare magazines, holster, or any other accessory? Let our professional staff help you find exactly what you need and get it installed for you. Mention you heard us on News Talk STL and save $100 on your membership and enjoy even more goodies. The Range St. Louis West. Are you ready?
Hi, I'm Bob Mahacek, and I'm running for state representative in the 92nd District. What do inflation, high energy prices, and out-of-control crime have in common? They're all the direct result of failed policies of the left. We've got to bring some common sense back into government. I'm proud to be endorsed by the St. Louis County Police Association and the Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. I'd appreciate your vote on November 8th. That's Bob Mahacek for state rep in the 92nd District. Thank you.
Paid for by Mahacek from Missouri, George Weinbright, Treasurer.
Life insurance is one of those things that just about everybody needs, but few people actually have. Hey, if you die unexpectedly without life insurance, guess what? You'll leave your family with even a bigger mess. Life insurance will help replace your family's income. It'll help cover burial expenses. Life insurance can even help pay off debt like credit cards and medical bills. Life insurance can even pay for college. And if you own a business and you die, life insurance can help your business from collapsing. It can even help cover estate taxes. Life insurance has never been more affordable and needed. Plus, you can always shop around even if you have a plan and save some money. So call the Life Insurance Quote Line right now for free pricing information.
800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. That's 800-979-3060.
The candidates.
We're going to win this campaign.
The issues.
Gas prices, Biden inflation.
The election news, analysis, and opinion you won't get anywhere else. Decision 2022 happens.
There's a backlash coming
on News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first, no question there is a concerted effort to intimidate and silence conservative thinkers and replace our God-given individual liberty with big government controls. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, is the leading conservative advocacy and benefits organization in America. AMAC gives you access to exclusive benefits and all kinds of great content. Please stand with AMAC at amac.us. That's amac.us. On this Thursday, Democrats across the country are facing a tough decision on November 8th. Either don't vote for their own party, which has failed them on the economy, crime, and border security, to name just three important issues, or vote for Democrats who are hurting them. Let's take Governor Kathy Hochul in New York. Under her administration, violent crimes are up significantly across the state. In the New York City subway system, felonies have increased 40% this year alone, while Hochul Vittle's crime casualties are brutal. And what has the governor done about it? Nothing. Nada en español. Hochul doesn't even talk a good game. She wails, "We have to get the guns off the streets." Not gun criminals, mind you, just the hardware. Stop and frisk is the only police tactic that will get guns off the streets. Hochul opposes that. And if you point that out to the governor, you will likely be branded a racist. Hochul and other Democrats also love to brand their opponents extremists. But I think it's extreme to fail to confront death and mayhem driven by criminals. I think that's very extreme. So are you an extremist? If so, the Democrats are your party. Back after this. I am excited about a new streaming platform called VidGo. VidGo gives you the freedom to be entertained at a price you can afford. VidGo has all of my favorite live sports networks. They have a great choice of news. All of that for $59 a month. You deserve the freedom to be entertained at a price you and your family can afford. Please go to VidGo, VIDGO.com/Bill to check it out. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the NewstalkSTL Weather Center.
Another chilly morning out there. Some frost in some of the colder areas early this morning, but partly cloudy skies and a nice day with a high of about 61 degrees this afternoon. Increasing cloudiness this evening, becoming kind of cloudy late this afternoon and this evening. Lows tonight in the 40s, continue dry and cool on Friday with a high in the mid-60s. Should be good for Friday night football and trunk or treats on Friday evening. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
News, analysis, opinion. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. Let's get the conversation started, St. Louis. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewstalkSTL.
It's one thing to be confident. It's another thing to be overconfident, which leads to recklessness or leads to maybe apathy. Are Republicans on the verge of that? I mean, we've been hearing all kinds of media say things like red wave and red tsunami and running the table, but are Republicans actually getting a little bit soft and lazy when it comes to the elections? I mean, there's 12 days left before Election Day. Going to bring up that question. We'll talk about that a little bit later on today. Hey, good morning. I'm Mike Ferguson. Thanks for making News Talk STL part of your morning. I had a really good conversation with the former acting commissioner of the Customs and Border Patrol Division under the Donald Trump administration. We had Mark Morgan on with us, and he's reacting to some of those recent reports regarding just how bad the illegal immigration issue is into the country. As he pointed out on Wednesday's show, this isn't about the numbers. This is about national security. This is about all sorts of things. But at the most basic part of all of this, it is about people. Here's what he had to say.
So it was his job to keep an eye on the southern border back when, we did that sort of thing. Now, not so much. Mark, appreciate you being on the program because we've got a new set of reports from the numbers of September when it comes to illegal border crossings. The numbers are overwhelming. And Mark, what I worry about is that we're getting such huge numbers month after month after month that sometimes people get overwhelmed by these big numbers and actually forget their meaning and how bad this is for the country, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Mike actually does. And I talk about that among many of my colleagues who were were part of, under the Trump administration, as you said, actually taking border security, which is national security, seriously. And I believe that we actually developed the most secure border in our lifetime, and this administration has intentionally dismantled that. Look, the September numbers alone for September is 227,000. And I think that the issue is, I agree with you, that a lot of American people, they've just become numb to those numbers because, again, that's a new record. But yet you won't hear that from this administration. You don't hear that from the mainstream media because it's a record after record after record after record. This fiscal year, 2.7 million total encounters. I mean, think about that for a second. 2.7 million. And if you take the first 21 months of this administration, you're looking at about 4.2 to 4.3 million total encounters. And then if you add the 1.1, 1.2 known gotaways on top of that, you're looking at 5.5 million illegal aliens have either attempted to break into our country and been apprehended, or they did it and got away. I mean, this is astronomical. I mean, it truly is an invasion on our southwest border.
Hey, real quick, that 227,000 number for September, was that just the ones that the Border Patrol was able to encounter and deal with, or does that include the estimated number of people who got away, or is that a separate number?
No, that's a separate number, Mike, and that's a very good question because 227, those are the ones that they actually encountered. They actually put hands on. And the fiscal year, for this fiscal year, the number of gotaways, again, those who have broken our country, evaded apprehension, and now are in every state in this country, just fiscal year 2022 alone, that's estimated between 600,000 to 700,000. Again, well over 1 million. And that's just known gotaways. When you talk to Border Patrol agents that are actually on the front line, and they say, look, we don't even know really what's getting away. So that number of gotaways could easily be up to 2 million. Think about that. 2 million gotaways in the last 21 months. And Mike, if I can real quick, here's why this is important. And this is what we always say, is that, so if you don't want to focus on the numbers or you get lost in the numbers or numb, we shouldn't, because these are catastrophic numbers. But here's why it's important. Because every single illegal alien that comes across the border, that pulls resources off. Right now, you've got 80 to 90% of Border Patrol resources that are pulled off the front line. They're pulled off their national security mission to deal with the millions of those that are violating the rule of law, violating their sovereignty by illegally entering. That literally leaves our border wide open. It's literally handing operational control of the southern border over the cartels to exploit. And what do? Drugs are pouring in, criminals are pouring in, and potential national security threats are pouring in, coming to every state in this country.
Mark, there was a report yesterday that members of the Texas Department of Public Safety apprehended someone who was bringing, I think, 60 people over in a dump truck. When the state officials, like the Texas Department of Public Safety, apprehend or encounter these illegal crossings, what ability do they have to turn them back?
Zero right now, and that's a very good question, and that's why we call it. We also what we're experiencing on the southern border is a constitutional crisis. I'll explain that real quick. The problem is that there's a Supreme Court case called U.S. v. Arizona, and it's very clear that states cannot enforce federal immigration law. So the physical act of returning an illegal alien, someone that's illegally broken in our country, back across, states cannot do that. That authority and that responsibility rests solely with the federal government. U.S. v. Arizona is very clear to that. But that's why it's very, very important, because this administration, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree, have abdicated their constitutional responsibility to protect the states from threats outside its borders. Well, the Constitution is very clear. When that happens on the federal government side, the states have what's called a self-help remedy within the Constitution to protect their own states. And that's where we're at right now. Once they declare an invasion, a governor of a state declares an invasion, now they're not enforcing federal immigration law. They're actually doing what they need to do to protect their states from the threats coming across, and then they could send people back across the border. And Carrie Lake in Arizona, she said if she wins a governor in Arizona, day one she's going to declare an invasion. That's exactly what we need.
Good morning, Mark. This is Ken Williams. The Biden administration is saying the 10,000 Russians crossing into Ukraine requires them to send billions over there. It's an invasion. We've got millions of people coming over our border, and they're not doing hardly anything about it. What I want to know is, where are these people actually going? I mean, it's a question we don't hear a lot about. I mean, you've got 4 to 6 million somewhere in there of people in our country. Where are they going?
Yeah, so that's the other good question. That, again, you're not going to hear that from this administration, just like you don't hear about the 1 to 2 million gotaways. The lack of transparency. I've served this country for almost 40 years. I've served under 6 administrations, both Republican and Democrat. I've never seen an administration blatantly lie to the American people, and the complete lack of transparency that under this administration. So you hear an uproar about when a couple of Republican governors send a couple of thousand illegal aliens to a couple of sanctuary cities. What they're not telling the American people, the past 21 months, DHS and the Biden administration have transported a couple of million illegal aliens to every state in this country, including D.C., New York, and Chicago. That's what's happening. The process is Border Patrol apprehends somebody that's just illegally entered. They're forced and mandated to process them quickly and then release them. And if you're an unaccompanied minor, the taxpayers are directly flying the unaccompanied minors anywhere in the United States, any 50 of the states where they can find a sponsor. If you're a family or single adult, they're literally dropping them off at local communities along the southwest border, and then NGOs that are sponsored by federal financial assistance, again, on the backs of taxpayers, and they fly the illegal alien anywhere where the illegal alien wants to go. So you've illegally entered the country, you could have COVID, and you say, you know what, I want to go to Montana, I want to go to Virginia, I want to go to Missouri. No problem, here's your plane ticket. That's how it happened.
We are visiting with Mark Morgan, the former acting commissioner of Customs and Border Patrol. Just got a minute or so left, Mark. He's now a visiting fellow with the Heritage Foundation. When it comes to policy, I still keep asking the question, why? This is increasingly unpopular, even with Democrats. It's unpopular with almost every demographic. Obviously, I'm not asking about the electoral politics of it, because now Heritage doesn't directly jump into that sort of thing. But when it comes to the actual policy, why continue trying to sell an open doors policy when the public understands that every border is a border state now? I just cannot comprehend that from a policy perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's the question, Ken. Look, it's very clear that with our border being open, that we've handed operation control of the cartels. We know drugs are coming across, killing Americans. We know criminals are pouring across, including murderers, rapists, pedophiles, and gang members. And of course, we know illegal aliens on the FBI's terror screening database are pouring in. Look, and the reality is we don't even know, because of all the gotaways, how many criminals and potential terrorist threats we have in the country. Why? Look, at the end of the day, you can draw no other conclusion that they see a perceived political benefit on two fronts. One is, remember, illegal aliens are counted as part of the census. So you could see a redistricting in direct favor of the Democrats. The other part of that is the Democratic Party, this administration, believes that every single illegal alien they find a pathway to citizenship is going to equate to a Democratic vote. So this is about power and politics, and they're jeopardizing every aspect of our nation's safety and national security because of it. It's disgusting.
All right, heritage.org is where you're going to find the work of Mark Morgan and all of his colleagues right now. Mark, appreciate you being back on the program. I think it's been a while since we've chatted.
You bet. Thank you for having me both.
We kick things off with the daily news roundup, starting here in just about 4 minutes and 11 seconds on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on NewstalkSTL.com. What's happening today? Here's your first dose of the news you need to know. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. The Vic Porcelli Show.
Joe Biden will throw billions of dollars to companies that commit to an ESG agenda. Well, we'll see what Robert Bork Jr., the president of the Antitrust Education Project, has to say about that Thursday at 10:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hello, St. Louis. Do you suffer from dry cough, static electricity, shocking the pet's nose when you go to pet them? Then you're in need of an April Air whole home humidifier. Jones Air & Water will install an April Air 600 model in the month of October for $650. For all News Talk listeners, find us on the web at joneswater.com or call us at 636-899-1040. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air & Water, 636-899-1040.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
I am a election denier because I don't think that 2020 was a free and fair election. And I get crap for that. But Stacey Abrams, the question was worded just like that. Was 2018 a free and fair election? She said no.
Right.
Why does she get to say it, but we don't get to say it?
Because you're not a Democrat.
I don't want to be one of those.
No, I don't either, Vic.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hey folks, here's great news for active aging seniors. The Kanega Watch, the only medical alert smartwatch with built-in fall detection. Yeah, the Kanega Watch is much different than the other guys. It's a stylish, discreet watch you can wear all the time. Get help through the watch in one of 3 ways. Your voice, pushing the watch's alert button, or have the fall detection connect you to a US-based 24/7 monitoring center who'll speak to you through your watch and can send help to your GPS location nationwide. And get this, it can do that even if you're not responsive. This is true 24/7 peace of mind for you and those that love you. Order your Kanega Watch with a full refund 30-day trial period. Call now, 800-413-7152. 800-413-7152. 800-413-7152. That's 800-413-7152.
The news and talk
North Korea launched an intercontinental ballistic missile
that matters to St. Louis.
Looters that were arrested are illegal aliens.
News, analysis, opinion.
The 2022 midterm elections.
101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Having your first cup of coffee? Mike's on his third. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, we've got a big update on the story regarding the school shooting that happened Monday in St. Louis. We are getting now more details about the monster who murdered 2 people and hurt 7 others in that school shooting that happened on Monday. Here's the thing. It turns out that police were called several times to his home in the past year. He was a known entity. His mental health problems were well known, but there were not always police reports written for all of those visits. This was not a complete surprise to some people because his family had been trying to get him, in their words, committed a number of times. So we've got new information. It doesn't solve everything, but some surprising new information has come out in the last 24 hours. Also, Joe Biden doesn't want to talk about the big stuff that's costing you big money, at least when it comes to the economy, but let's talk about some of the little stuff, because that's going to get y'all fired up and let him know he's on your side.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, it's very Biden.
That gets me excited.
Yeah, very Biden-esque. Very Biden-esque. Also, a Cardinals fan favorite is coming back for one more season. Season number 18, and looks like the final season. I'll tell you about that here in just a couple of minutes or so. I'm Mike Ferguson. It is 5:48. Got Ken Williams here. We are now finding out about the several calls that St. Louis police and several encounters that they have had with the murderer who killed 2 people at the Visual and Performing Arts High School this week. We'll get into this in more depth at 6:20. Here's the thing. At the request of the family, St. Louis police even took the gun that ended up being the murder weapon away from him at one point.
Yeah.
They
did they give it to a family member?
They gave it to somebody else who was legally not prohibited from having that, and the shooter we don't know where he bought the gun. They're trying to figure out where that came from, but they actually took it away because of a disturbance and because of his mental health situation, and they don't know how it got back to him. So
I'm sure they're going to find that out.
They better. He either took it back or it was given back to him, but they don't exactly know how it got back to him.
I mean, we can't jump to conclusions.
No,
he could have gone to the person's house and stole it back.
Absolutely. That's what we're trying to figure out, or police are trying to figure out. And police were called by his family multiple times this year and last year, at least 6 times that we know of at this point, because of his behavior, because of his mental health, because of domestic disturbance calls, both this and last year, like I said. And in some of the cases, according to multiple reports, there were no police reports filed in relation to those calls. So we're not really sure what happened in some of those cases.
Well, oftentimes the people who call the police, they don't want to make a report.
Does that matter, though? I mean, the police officers did not file a report of their call to that scene.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not always up to the people who were there, but in some of the cases, the police did not document what happened there as well. So we don't know why, and obviously we don't know what happened. So more details on this at 6:20, but it raises a question as to could this have been stopped? This guy said, "I've got no family." That was part of the note that he wrote. Well, he did have a family, and they were calling regularly trying to get him committed into mental health facilities. They were trying to get him on medications. So the police, Michael Sack, the police commissioner, acting police chief, he said, in his opinion, the family was trying to do everything that they could. You've got an adult male, 19 years old, that they were trying to get him help. But this was somebody who was careening into a very dangerous territory, and he was, it turns out, a known entity.
Yeah. When he said that he has no family, I think that could have been an exaggeration.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he has a family, but he's telling them I have no family. You know what I mean? I'm telling them that I have no family.
Yeah. So the note that he left behind clearly was not completely accurate. But then again, You've got the mind of somebody who's struggling. Yeah. I mean, and that, so his reality looks different than the rest of the world. So 6:20, we'll get into that. I'm really curious what people think about these developments. And again, and like you said, this isn't the end of it. We don't know what the conclusion is. This is just new information as part of the process of finding out everything that happened. We need to remember, we don't know everything that happened or didn't happen yet.
Yeah, and if there's a police, if there's a police man or woman that can call and let us know, some of the insight, and you don't have to give your name or anything, but just let us know, what does that mean when they don't have a report? Does it automatically mean that the police decided not to give a report, or was it something that had to do with the family? If you could let us know and clarify, that'd be great.
314-912-1019. Okay, President Joe Biden says he's protecting your personal finances. He's on the case, Ken.
Yeah.
He's on the case.
Yeah, he always is.
Well, I mean, he's not going to change his energy policies or pull back on federal borrowing and spending. He's not doing that.
Oh.
But he is complaining about some of those annoying fees that we get charged. He called a press conference for this yesterday.
Some airlines, if you want 6 more inches between you and the seat in front, you pay more money. But you don't know it until you purchase your ticket. Look, folks, these are junk fees. They're unfair, and they hit marginalized Americans the hardest, especially low-income folks and people of color. They benefit big corporations, not consumers.
Wait, black people don't know how to change a ticket on an airplane? Is that what he's saying?
Either that or that black people don't take first class. I mean, I honestly don't know why the race issue has anything to do with any of this.
Because we're 12 days from an election.
It's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, okay. They're also going after banks who charge fees when you bounce a check or you overdraft. They're like, that's not fair.
Well, yeah, it is.
Really? It's not fair? What? Yeah, you use somebody else's money. They get to charge you for that.
Yeah.
So they're going after all these miscellaneous little fees. And some of them, like, for instance, part of what he's going after is concert ticket processing fees. So this is
Are you kidding?
This is what the President of the United States is saying is going to save us money and help us with inflation. This is the kind of
frack.
Yeah.
Open up the oil industry.
This is the kind of stuff that he's focusing on, hoping that we'll not look at what's actually happening. Speaking of elections, on the Missouri side of the listening area, early voting is underway now, by the way. So check with your local election board or your county clerk. You do not need a reason to show up and vote early. Before, if you were voting absentee or voting early, you had to give them a reason why, out of town on work, whatever the case is. You can just vote early now if you want. I mean, today you can do it, but you do have to bring your photo ID.
And I just, I guess I'm that old school where I want to use a paper and pencil and go to the location on the day, mark it down, put it in the device, whatever it is, myself. I just want to do it.
Well, you'll still do it. You can that's all true, except just not on the actual election day. I mean,
I know, but it has to be, and they've got. I'm sure they have a chain of custody and all that stuff. But it's just, I'd rather do it on a day.
I have voted early before a couple of times actually, because I was going to be out of town on election day. Most recently, it was in St. Louis County. So I went in there and it was the exact same process. I got the exact same ballot, showed my ID, marked my ballot by hand and handed it back, and they put it in the box to count right on the spot.
Sure. I mean, if you got a reason, yeah.
But
I would just rather do it in person.
I think there's a lot of people have that preference. I don't know. I may go up there and do it again just so I don't have to deal with the lines. I think there'll be some lines.
See, that's part of my experience. I like to see the people. I like to talk to the people and see the lines. And
I am tempted, like I think I mentioned this yesterday, I am tempted to just go through the gauntlet of people trying to last minute hand you flyers and electioneering outside of the polls. But then again, I would look at some of those here's one for left-wing liberal, and I go, no, I'm sorry, I understand basic economics, but then I'm just trying to make somebody else's day worse for no reason other than for my personal enjoyment. So I don't know if I want to put myself in that position, because I will absolutely be guilty of doing that. So yeah, I mean, I have no problem with early voting. The only thing is, in some places, if you vote early enough, because there's some places, 2-3 weeks. Can you imagine being a Pennsylvania voter, maybe an independent, who said, I'm kind of leaning toward this Fetterman guy.
Oh, my
and
God.
Then you go and you vote, and then you see that debate, and you go, oh, crap, what have I done?
Yep.
So that's one of the dangers of it. All right, let's see here. Some analysts, speaking of your personal finances, predicting that Americans are going to have to pay a lot more money for heating your home this winter. This is something we've been telling you about. Fox News' Matt Finn explains.
A Gas Buddy energy analyst tells Fox News it's going to be a difficult winter to heat your home, whether you use propane, heating oil, or even natural gas. Compounding the problem, the U.S. is down to some of its lowest supply ever of diesel and heating oil. States in New England, along with New York and Pennsylvania, rely heavily on heating oil and may see some of the steepest price increases. Heating oil suppliers in the Northeast have begun to ration supplies after their stockpiles dropped to a third of their normal levels. And the price of home heating oil, which is similar to diesel, is now topping $4.09 a gallon in New York, up from $2.46 a year ago.
All right, out of the Cardinals news category, Adam Wainwright coming back for one more season.
Oh, good.
Season number 18. That announcement was made Wednesday. Also, unfortunately, the Blues lost to the Oilers last night.
Yeah.
Final score there was 3-1. So they're 3-2 on the season, I think.
Yeah, they're okay.
Still off to a good
early.
start.
Yeah.
Still off to a good start.
Open enrollment is coming for anyone covered by Affordable Care Act.
Open enrollment starts November 1st and stays open through January 15th.
Hi, this is Mike Butts with MB Health Insurance Agency. And regardless if you are new or renewing your health insurance, the process can be confusing and very time-consuming. MB Health is local here in St. Louis, and we will handle your enrollment quickly, properly, and effectively.
Call Mike Butts and his expert team at 314-544-5400.
Or visit mbhealth.com.
How is your car payment treating you? What if I told you you could make a free phone call right now and reduce your car payment by as much as $83 a month? Look at your car payment closely. You could be paying as high as 20% interest. Rate Genius can help you reduce your car payments by reducing your interest rate to as low as 2.48% APR. We can refinance most existing car loans or leased cars, new or used, and save you money every month. Put more money back in your pocket. The call is free to find out how low we can lower your car payment. 5 minutes of your time right now could save you hundreds of dollars a year. Call Rate Genius now.
800-764-2179. 800-764-2179. 800-764-2179. That's 800-764-2179.
Not all applicants qualify for a loan or rate savings. Actual offer terms, including APR, are determined at the time of your application based on creditworthiness, value of the vehicle, loan term, and other factors.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling
Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewstalkSTL.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. As if the struggling economy didn't already face strong enough headwinds, now we're looking at a diesel fuel shortage, coupled with the renewed possibility of a railroad strike.
A second railroad union has rejected its deal with major U.S. freight railroads, reflecting workers' increased frustration with a lack of paid sick time in the industry. The vote by the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen adds to concerns about the possibility of a strike next month. That could cripple the economy.
That's correspondent Donna Warder. Supplies of diesel, which fuels the trucks that deliver the goods, now at their lowest level since 2008. And then there's the country's Strategic Petroleum Reserve, tapped repeatedly by President Biden. The SPR is at an almost 40-year low. That's concerning because the reserve is supposed to be available for the military in time of war or for other dire national emergencies. Didn't take long to drain the reserve. President Trump topped it off during his watch. Iran topping the agenda as Israel's president came calling at the White House.
After holding talks with President Biden in the Oval Office, Israeli President Herzog said the two leaders spoke about the threats posed by the Iranian regime.
Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapon, Iran's crush of its own citizens in a brutal, vicious and malicious way.
He also said they discussed Iran's supplying of weapons that are killing Ukrainian citizens. Greg Clugston, the White House.
Democrat Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey, he's the target of a federal investigation again. He avoided conviction on corruption charges 5 years ago in a jury deadlock, and prosecutors declined to pursue the case. Watching Wall Street, stock futures are mixed. Right now, the Dow futures are up 143 points. NASDAQ futures down 67 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
What's the best product I bought this year? Oh, that's easy. Salon Pas pain relieving patches. The proven medicines in Salon Pas patches reduce my pain and let me do the things I need to do every day.
In a recent clinical study, patients using Salon Pas reported improved sleep, mood, and the ability to work. They had less pain and were able to reduce their use of oral pain medications.
For pain, I use Salon Pas. It's good medicine.
He said me too. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. 270 northbound from 55 to McDonald, traffic's running 20 minutes. Westbound from 5570 in Illinois to McDonald, you're looking at a 23-minute commute. 40 from downtown to 270, traffic's running 12 minutes. And from 270 to the Boom Bridge, it's an additional 11-minute commute. 70 from Broadway to 270, traffic's running 15 minutes. And from 270 to Wentzville Parkway, an additional 21 minutes. In 170 from 270 to 40, you're looking at a 10-minute commute. Blindster.com sells custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters that are easy to install at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are custom-made for your windows and are guaranteed to fit. Don't hire a pro, do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Another chilly morning out there. Some frost in some of the colder areas early this morning, but partly cloudy skies and a nice day with a high of about 61 degrees this afternoon. Increasing cloudiness this evening, becoming kind of cloudy late this afternoon and this evening. Lows tonight in the 40s, continue dry and cool on Friday with a high in the mid-60s. Should be good for Friday night football and trunk or treats on Friday evening. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by All Solutions Pest Control, 636-486-7888, or visit them at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
If you believe Brandon and the supply chain issues are still in crisis, or even if you don't, hurry into Southern Armory, your Second Amendment headquarters, for the best selection of firearms, suppressors, holsters, ammunition, pepper spray, and knives. Browse through our constantly changing inventory, order something special, or have us repair or modify that firearm that you've been putting off. Try our firearms training simulator. See the demo video on our website. Come into Southern Armory, 9901 Watson Road, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, at southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
For $1 a day, if any covered appliance breaks in your home, we guarantee to fix or replace it. All makes and models, washers, dryers, refrigerators, air conditioners, and more. Guaranteed to be fixed or replaced for $1 a day. Call the Home Service Club now for free information.
800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. That's 800-399-3701.
Talk radio made in St. Louis for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL.
Our responsibility.
News, analysis, and opinion.
To provide updated guidance.
At 1019, 941, and NewstalkSTL.com. Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
Gabe Pfeiffer.
There's something serious I have to tell you about the future.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
Hey, will you guys knock it off?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin
Pretty significant update to the investigation into the school shooting that happened on Monday. It turns out that the shooter was a known entity to police multiple times over. So we are going to talk about that right around 6:20. So you got questions, you got thoughts on it, get those fired up, because we'll start that conversation in less than 15 minutes. It is 6:07 right now, coming up on 6:07, 314-912-1019. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire in with us, in for Gabe, who is still unfortunately a little bit under the weather, and Ken Williams here as well. Okay, so apparently, Virginia, the president thinks black people can't manage their plane tickets or something like that, I guess.
Yeah, I wrote about that yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that with
Wire.
the Daily Wire article. Yeah,
and sorry, my volume was a little off.
Okay, well, here, let's do this. Let me get the basics from this with Jared Halpern from Fox News. Then I want to follow up with what you wrote on Daily Wire yesterday.
Right. So-called junk fees, President Biden says, are costing Americans billions of dollars.
Surprise charges that companies sneak into bills because they can.
The president says federal agencies are cracking down on things like excessive overdraft penalties, hotel booking fees, and termination charges.
In fact, there's an entire industry that's popping up in America to help companies use complicated algorithms to hide fees that hurt consumers.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is issuing new guidance about bank fees that could be unlawful or unfair. Other agencies are looking at fees charged by internet providers and airlines. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Okay, some of those things are annoying, but is this really what the president of the United States should be focused on when we've got 8-point-something% inflation right now?
No.
Yeah, no. I did hear you talking about one thing. You were talking about bounce checks and eliminating. If you read the fine print, he's not saying you can go kite checks.
Right.
Okay. What he's talking about is saying, and I actually agree with this one, by the way. If I were to sell a bicycle, like put it on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and somebody meets me in the Walmart parking lot and buys that bicycle and they pay me with a check, I deposit that check.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if it's under a certain amount, your bank will spot you whatever the amount of that check is. It'll say you have those funds available immediately if it's under a certain amount, and it depends on the bank and whether or not they know you usually, whether they'll do this. And what they're saying now is that if that check bounces and you make a payment in good faith from your account because you believe that it was a good check, you don't get the overdraft fee for that. So if you deposit a check that somebody else gave you, and then through no fault of your own, that check bounces, that's what they're saying. They're not going to charge you overdraft fees based on that. But it's very difficult to track that because you could...
And for those who are under 30, should we explain what checks are? I mean, who writes checks anymore?
It's all this, and it's what's funny about this is he's talking about like he's doing you this big favor.
Right, yeah.
And one, airline junk fees, no one's flying because the airline prices are up 47%.
You've got a lot of poor people who are flying.
But sometimes I can't tell when he's kidding.
No, I'm being facetious.
But the idea that, and oh my goodness, it just, you look at it, and somebody made the point, and I included the tweet in my article. This is the federal government telling private businesses what they can and can't do.
Yeah, this is interfering in private
This
contracts.
is a problem for, and whether or not I personally like or dislike the fees that are there, they're telling you that they're there. It's not a surprise. I mean, if you go to an airline website, it'll say, here's the price of the ticket. Here's the price of XYZ fee that you have to pay. And here's the total price that you're going to be charged. It's not like, hey, your ticket price is $99. Then you run the credit card and get the bill later. Oh, crap, they charged me $250.
Right.
That's not what's happening. You're seeing it before you ever make the payment. So it's not like it's a shock. It's a surprise. You might be disappointed as you're going through, oh, they advertised this flight for $99. But when all's said and done, it's actually $100 or $150, whatever. But you know before you pay it.
Yeah, I mean, they're annoying. I mean, concert ticket processing, what the heck?
When you get an online ticket delivered to your email that you just show them at the gate, like, what exactly are you processing?
You're right. Yeah.
But so I get it. You know, I don't like the fees either.
Yeah, they're annoying, but is the federal government is going to tell me that this is how they're going to get me through a recession?
No, one better is the president of the United States making an actual point to have a press conference to talk about these things. And you know why he's doing it? It's strictly deflection. That's all it is.
You know what? He's saving us, what, $250 on a concert ticket? $250 on your next concert ticket. That's what he's saving you. But it's still going to cost you, like, how much extra are you paying for gas
to get out there?
Like, yeah. I was going to say, or you lose that $250 the minute you buy like a dozen eggs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without, I mean, this is where I was talking about, you know, is he going to call a press conference to say, you know what, we really, really messed up our oil and gas and energy. You know what we're going to do? We're going to send a signal to the market that pipes are going to be built, drilling is going to resume. We're going to get out of the way for all of those drilling permits that we're holding up. We're going to signal that we want more refineries. We're going to start going to where we're fracking. We're going to generate our own energy again. And that's what we're going to give to the market. But no, he's going to say when you go see Taylor Swift and you want to take your kids to that, we're going to go after that Ticketmaster or whoever, because they're the ones that are really hurting your bottom line, not the fact that gas prices are, you know, nearly double what they were a year and a half ago.
Yeah, well, and you know, you got parents like, what are you talking about, Taylor Swift? I can't afford the gas to get to the concert, much less the tickets and then the fees.
When you have problems like we're having with the average home spending $6,800 more a year just for the things that they've already purchased in the past before Biden, he doesn't have anything else to talk about. So he's literally creating something to talk about before we get to the midterms.
No, I will say this. He's been talking about this for a while. He's been talking about junk fees and addressing this for a while. And so I think he actually does feel like he's doing something.
But he's doing it.
But the timing makes it suspect. That's one. But also, it's like, it's, you know, spitting in the ocean. Like, what exactly do you think you're accomplishing here?
Did he? Yeah. I mean, did he and Jill decide they wanted to go see Frankie Valli in Branson and go, wait a minute, what's this $1.75 here? There ought to be a law.
I'm done. I know I paid $50 more for gas to get here, but damn it, that $1.75, I can't do this.
I think the weird, I mean, the thing that just really frustrates me about this is that this is the expectation is that all of us hear this and go, Thank you, Mr. President. Things have been really tight around here. What I'm really worried about is whether or not I get charged when I bounce a check or whether or not I pay an extra fee when I go to buy a concert ticket or a ball game ticket. That's really what matters to me. Thank you. You know me so well. Thank you.
He's
for
just
being
reflecting
so
on the number of people who were really excited to save 16 cents on their 4th of July barbecue a year and a half ago.
Right. Yeah. Oh, good Lord.
I mean,
all right, just ahead here, we've got some updated information regarding the investigation into the school shooting that happened on Monday. Turns out that police were aware of this guy who did it. They had been called to his home a number of times. His family had been trying to force him into mental health treatments, according to police. So we're not looking at something as cut and dry as we once thought that we were. We'll talk about that. I've got the update right around 6:20 on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference.
For podcast articles and more, find us on NewstalkSTL.com.
Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin car. Get up, what are you waiting for? Get up.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
You want to give me more information?
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Mucinex DM. There's a report of an accident at the intersection of Clarkson and Clayton Road. And taking a look at traffic times this morning, 270 northbound from 55 to McDonald, traffic's running 20 minutes. Westbound from 5570 in Illinois to McDonald, you're looking at a 23-minute commute. 40 westbound from downtown to 270, traffic's running 13 minutes. And from 270 to the Boom Bridge, you're looking at an additional 11 minutes. 70 from downtown to 270, traffic's running about 15 minutes. Buy Mucinex DM to get cough and chest congestion relief for 3 times longer than typical 4-hour cough and chest congestion medicines. That's 3 times longer relief for chest congestion and cough. Nothing lasts longer. Among OTC cough and cold medicines, use as directed. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
In St. Charles District 105, there's one clear choice for state representative. Adam Schwadron has fought hard to punish porch pirates, cut taxes, keep our elections safe, and secure and protect personal property rights. Next year, Adam Schwadron will work to remove Soros-funded prosecutors that are refusing to do their jobs and jeopardizing our safety. On November 8th in St. Charles, vote for Republican Adam Schwadron for state representative.
Paid for by Citizens for Schwadron, Mike Summers, CPA, Treasurer.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
Now, the Onder Prescription with Dr. Bob Onder.
I'm Dr. Bob Onder. Last week, a CDC panel recommended that the COVID-19 vaccine be added to the list of recommended child immunizations. But the case for vaccinating toddlers is very weak. The risk of serious complications or death for children with COVID-19 is very, very low, and it is less than other viruses such as RSV and influenza. And 86% of children have already been infected and recovered from COVID, so they have at least some natural immunity. In the very limited data the CDC bases its decision on, only 2 toddlers were hospitalized with COVID, and even they were infected with other viruses at the same time. This decision has no force of law in Missouri per se, and Governor Mike Parson has stated Missouri would not follow it. Good. But too many of our so-called public health experts are not following the science. They're following Fauci-Biden politics. Time to stop. I'm Dr. Bob, and that's my prescription.
Find more Dr. Bob Onder at bobondermo.com.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at NewstalkSTL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at NewstalkSTL.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and NewstalkSTL.com.
I'm trying not to say the murderer's name too many times, but it's just part of the story right now. 19-year-old Orlando Harris is the young man who murdered 2 people at the Visual and Performing Arts High School on Monday and injured 7 others. And a lot of caveats to a tragedy like this often have us jumping to conclusions. One of those conclusions is, well, where was his family? Clearly, he had a lousy family. I don't know what kind of family he had, but what we do know now is that his family, for at least several months, if not the last couple of years, have been trying to apparently get this guy mental help. That's according to the police department. I'm Mike Ferguson. It's 6/20/21. Virginia Cruder from the Daily Wire is in for Gabe today. Ken is here, of course. And so here's some new information that we've got. Police have been called to this guy's house at least 6 times now that we know of. At least 6 times. For domestic disturbances, for mental health hotline calls. Police were aware that he had somehow gotten the gun that he ended up using at the high school. At one point, that gun was taken away. His family had called and said, he's got mental health problems. I want this gun out of here. And so the police came and they took it. But police can't just simply confiscate a gun because somebody doesn't want you to have your property there. So they gave it to somebody else, another adult, and it ended up back in the hands of Orlando Harris. The police don't know how that happened. He either went and got it or they just gave it back or whatever the case is. The police say that the family tried to push him into taking medication, to getting therapy. They've even tried to have him committed. So for those who would say, well, this doesn't just happen in a vacuum, must have been a terrible family, which is frankly one of the stereotypes that we tend to jump to when it comes to something that happens in an urban core. The story that we're getting from the police says that no, the family's been screaming for help and been trying to get this guy some help that he needs. So that's what we know as of right now. We also know that at least 2 of the calls we don't have any records of, other than they were called out there because there was no police report filed. So the police officers did not file a report. The other ones, they're filed and those are still being looked at. I don't have them in front of me. So this gets a little more complicated in that, of course it's complicated. This is a horrible, just one of the worst tragedies St. Louis has had in a long time. But it gets more complicated because this wasn't as simple as, well, his note said he had no friends, he had no family, he had nothing. Well, he did have a family who was desperately trying to help him, according to what we're learning now. Now we may get more information that changes that now, but that's what investigators are telling us right now. And so this was not a complete shock that he snapped and went on a rampage.
Right.
I don't know what that changes as far as our perspective of this. The focus on the victims is obviously the most important thing. Some GoFundMes were set up for the family of the 16-year-old Alexandria Hall who was murdered. and to pay for funeral costs, and well over $20,000 came in already since Monday.
Right.
There's another one that was set up to help families pay for the hospital and medical treatment of those who were shot. Over $110,000 has already come in. That's where the main focus should be, obviously. But we also have a lot of questions to say, could this have been stopped?
At first glance, it seems like the family really cared, because a lot of these families that you see that go through this, not more often than not, you'll hear that they didn't really. They were parents that never were around because they had to work all the time. They didn't pay a lot of attention to him. But it seems like this family, these parents, actually tried to get him help quite often, and that just shows me, at least on the face of it, that they care.
That's at least what the police department is saying. The police chief is saying.
Right.
He says, first of all, they are cooperating as much as they can. I mean, so apparently he says they are completely cooperative, Virginia. And the other part is that they have been, like Ken said, trying to get this guy help. And so don't jump all over the family.
Right.
That's what I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
A lot of times when a young person does something absolutely horrific and tragic, there are cases where the family is just a big pile of crap. We don't have any evidence to show that here in this case.
Right. It is interesting that there are not documents for some of the visits.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder, though, because sometimes, I'll give an example. We had one neighbor call the police on another neighbor because they were complaining that their music was too loud on the 4th of July at like 9:00 in the evening. So it was kind of a ridiculous call.
What a great use of police officers'
And
time.
and
for that.
apparently there has been some back and forth between these people in the past. And so I don't believe a police report was written up. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't a major conflict between these two people that might require attention at some point. But the immediate requirement was not there. So I'm wondering if, like, hey, maybe the family was really worried about him, but then the police got there and the immediate situation didn't rise to the level of, yes, we need to be here, we need to document this. Because I realize, obviously, there was a problem, and this is a guy who did a horrible thing last week, but it's also possible that when police arrived to his house, he was lucid and having a conversation with him, and they were able to say, okay, there is no immediate threat, we can leave now.
Yeah.
And if that's the case and they chose not to write up a report, I don't know that I necessarily have a problem with that.
Well, they made some sort of documentation. At least we know that they made these visits.
Right. Yeah,
they went. And you're right. They not all the time they're going to make these things. And it's not the Minority Report, the movie. They don't know in advance what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So that's one of the problems.
Well, we're talking about a domestic disturbance. We are talking about a family who has in the past said this guy's mentally unstable and he's got a weapon. At some point, don't you at least document what happened, or what you saw?
Sure,
there?
and at some point they did.
Yeah, but not at all of them.
But not at all, and that's what I'm saying. They may have gotten out there and looked at the immediate situation and said, well, this is kind of a he said, she said. I don't really know where to. There's nothing we can do here at this moment.
You notice what we're saying right now, though, is like, well, this may have happened, this could have happened, this may have happened.
Speculation.
Yeah,
the fact
it is all speculation.
We don't know what happened because in most of the cases there are police reports that they're looking into and reading, but in a couple of those cases we don't know because they didn't document. This was the call, this was the claim, we decided not to do anything because of this, or they have it under control, or they're talking to a medical professional.
And it may be maybe that's something that should happen.
Right.
Where you say, okay, we went out to the house, it was a bust. So we left.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
Right.
It just seems like, coming from a non-law enforcement background, that even a quick documentation is more of a cover your backside kind of thing, because now we had somebody who went on to do the unexpected, and it opens up a lot more questions because, well, there were calls on this day and this day. What happened? Well, we don't know. There wasn't a report filed by the officers. And so it's better just to document it.
And from earlier discussions that we've had, and we've talked about, well, here's what we need to do with the mental health aspect of this thing. We need to, instead of saying gun violence, let's do gun control, we need to talk about the mental health aspect of it. And this might be one of those things where we say, okay, there are different flags, and you got to be careful with this because you can have unintended flags that really aren't there, but there has to be something where they say, okay, now this is beyond a little. He had a gun. He's unstable. Those are buzzwords for saying, well, maybe we need to follow up on this.
Right. And I'm not a fan of red flag laws just based on a phone call.
At all.
Because that's where vindictiveness gets in, and it just opens up the door to violate everybody's rights. And it is a really weird area because as far as we know, he did not have a criminal record. Somebody having, tough times with their mental or emotional health at any given time isn't a crime, and it shouldn't be a crime. And so at this point, we believe that he did own the gun legally. He simply made a conscious choice to commit evil. 314-912-1019. Got time to get your thoughts in on this here. Evolving, very complicated situation. All right, just ahead here. Oh, man, where do we go from here? How about this? A lawmaker in Congress is told, no, this club is set up for you, but you're not allowed in it. Why? Well, you're a conservative. We can't have that. It's actually worse than I'm making it sound right now. I'll tell you about it at 6:35 on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on NewstalkSTL.com. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. Place to talk.
Because that's where the votes are getting stolen. When you get into the facts and logic and reason thing, it drives me crazy because you're right.
I call it the oh my God virus.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
From the News Talk STL newsroom, I'm Joey Vasovich. St. Charles officials want Ameren, Missouri to spend about $40 million to move wells supplying much of the city's drinking water away from groundwater contamination linked to a company substation on Huster Road near 370. Officials also want Ameren to pay for improvements at the city's water treatment plant to remove any contaminants, which could cost another $10 to $20 million. St. Louis's latest concert and event space, the Hawthorne at Washington Avenue and North 23rd Street, will have its grand opening on November 3rd. Marathon Live, a management company based out of Nashville, is behind the project, a 10,000 square foot single-level space named for the Missouri State Flower. The Hawthorne will have a standing room capacity of 1,300 people. And in sports, Cardinals president of baseball operations John Mozeliak announced yesterday that hitting coach Jeff Albert, pitching coach Mike Maddox, and bullpen coach Brian Eversgerd will not return for the 2023 season. Mozeliak said the team was prepared to offer Albert a new contract, but he wanted to move on, and Maddox was not fired but wanted to step down. A developer has plans to create an $18 million Negro Leagues baseball museum to honor the St. Louis Stars, the local Negro League team, and black baseball in North St. Louis. The Land Clearance for Redevelopment Authority on Tuesday recommended 15 years of tax abatement for the museum, which would be an affiliate of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. For in-depth coverage of these stories and more, go to NewstalkSTL.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. There's a report of an accident at the intersection of Clarkson and Clayton Road. And taking a look at traffic times, 270 westbound in Illinois, 5570 to McDonald. Traffic's running 24 minutes. 270 northbound from 55 to McDonald. Traffic's running about 21 minutes. 40 westbound from downtown to 270. You're looking at a 13-minute commute. And from 270 to the Boone Bridge, it's an additional 11 minutes. 70 from Broadway to 270. You're looking at 15 minutes, and 270 to Wentzville Parkway, traffic's running 22 minutes this morning. At Lowe's, every pro is an MVP. MVP's Pro Rewards members visit Lowe's now and earn bonus points on products and brands like DeWalt. Then redeem for Lowe's e-gift cards and more. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees. Lowes.com/MVP's bonus points for details now through October 28th. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Another chilly morning out there. Some frost in some of the colder areas early this morning, but partly cloudy skies and a nice day with a high of about 61 degrees this afternoon. Increasing cloudiness this evening, becoming kind of cloudy late this afternoon and this evening. Lows tonight in the 40s, continued dry and cool on Friday with a high in the mid-60s. Should be good for Friday night football and trunk or treats on Friday evening. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Start a podcast for your business today with Epic STL Podcasts. Engage existing and potential customers, build trust in your brand, and drive traffic to your business. Log on to newstalkstl.com and click on the Epic STL Podcast button to learn more.
Columbo and Katie.
Their job at this incredibly upscale fancy restaurant in London is to go around to the tables and hand feed grapes to the customers.
I don't even want to be disturbed by a waiter that's filling up my glass every 5 seconds or asking me how I'm doing every 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine someone coming over to me and being like, "And a grape for you, my dear."
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's Thursday, and at 5:25, we'll talk with political consultant Jeff Rowe, and at 5:45, we'll talk with Justin Sparks.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL. We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You know, when for a political party that says that they stand for, I think their preferred term now is people of color, for minorities, they really don't like some minorities, or excuse me, people of color in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just depends on whether or not you're going to toe the line and do what you're told.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second here. Coming up on 6:38, I'm Mike Ferguson. That's Virginia Cruda there in for Gabe Pfeiffer today, and Ken Williams here. Also, right around 6:50, the story, kind of a cool story out of England. It doesn't quite end the way that you would think, but a guy is walking along the river, and he actually finds somebody's wedding band. And the lengths that this guy went to return that wedding band to somebody, I got to tell you about it at 6:50. And then again, the story doesn't quite end the way you would think. But, man, this guy had his heart in the right place. We'll tell you about that.
Cool.
Interesting stuff. Okay, so as you know, there is a Congressional Hispanic Caucus. There's a Congressional Black Caucus, for sub-caucuses all over the Congress, and every state legislature has some of these as well. So Mayra Flores, the newest member of Congress, elected in Texas, the first Mexican-born member of Congress. She's a Republican, lives along the border area, and she said, "Well, I'm Hispanic. I'm going to go join the Hispanic Caucus," and they said no.
Well, she's of the wrong type of Hispanic.
Exactly. She's of the type that is conservative and thinks that we should secure the border. So the Congressional Hispanic Caucus denied her application.
Yep. What's interesting about that is that there are a lot of Hispanic voters who would not be allowed in the Hispanic caucus based on the last couple of elections.
Oh, yeah.
And
especially in Florida and in Texas. So
yeah, we're going to talk about that just a little bit later on today as well. And that's not just the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Byron Donalds, the Republican from Florida, very conservative guy. You see him a lot on like Newsmax, and he's on Fox and Friends doing interviews. I mean, this guy's really conservative. He happens to be black. And so he said, "Well, I'm in Congress. I'm black. I'm going to go join the Congressional Black Caucus and bring my voice there." They said no.
Yep.
They rejected him.
You know what else the Congressional Black Caucus did? And this is more recent. They put money into a congressional campaign in Indiana, which is interesting because they backed a white man over a black woman.
Well, that's just bizarre.
Yeah. So the story gets weirder. Can I go on with it?
Yeah.
Okay. So
this is a weird politics segment. Absolutely.
Okay. So Congressman Mervin is the white gentleman who got the money from the Congressional Black Caucus, and it's not a huge amount. It's like $5,000 for his campaign, which for a national, a U.S. Congress seat, it's not a whole lot of money. But it's something. They didn't give anything to his opponent, Jennifer Ruth Green. Now, Jennifer Ruth Green is an Air Force Academy graduate, and if you've heard her name, it's because Politico published a piece about a month ago, and it was supposed to be a profile of her that showed both sides, okay? It included leaked information from her Air Force personnel file that was not supposed to be made public, including information about a sexual assault that she was the victim of and had never given anyone permission to release. Politico claimed that it had been obtained via Freedom of Information Act. And the Air Force said, well, wait a minute, we don't give out personnel files that aren't redacted if you file like a public information request. You can't do that. Well, the Air Force announced yesterday, and this is from Congressman Jim Banks was a part of it, and Senator Tom Cotton actually called for accountability on this about a week ago. And what happened was the Air Force is now saying that an opposition research firm had gotten someone to illegally leak the information. They don't know if it was her opponent. She has blamed her opponent because that's the obvious, We don't know if it was him or just somebody who didn't want a conservative in that office. But an opposition research firm got somebody inside to leak this information illegally. And now we know that Politico straight up lied about it being a Freedom of Information Act request.
So it doesn't surprise me that Politico lied about something.
And so what's the result here?
The result here is that all the information is still out there. She had to go public with information about an assault that she didn't, but not on her own in her own time. What had happened? She was assaulted by, I believe, an Iraqi officer, and she reported it to her chain of command, and they requested that she not report it further because they were afraid it would damage relations because we were trying to build up their military, and they didn't want to create a problem. She reported it anyway and said that her career was stymied because of that. And so that's what went into the Politico thing.
Is she running right? I mean, is that the current election cycle that we're talking about?
She is running. It's, I think, Indiana District 7, maybe. I could be wrong about the district. But Mervin is the current incumbent rep, and Jennifer Ruth Green is the name of the candidate running against him. And the Black Caucus backed him over her, even after all this came out. Like, okay, so
does Politico pay a price for any of this?
Probably not, because they can say that they were told it was a Freedom of Information. No, they should know better, and they should run this down. You shouldn't get an unredacted personnel file that includes sensitive information. The Air Force isn't just giving that up. Sorry, they're not. Yeah. And so for all that to come out the way that it did, it's just it's a mess. And she was forced to go public with information she didn't want to. And I mean, I realize you're running for Congress. You're going to go public with more information than you want to sometimes. But for it to come out in the way that it did, it was just, everybody looks bad.
Yeah. And then bottom line is the Congressional Black Caucus not supporting the black candidate.
Right.
Which, by the way, I don't think you should be supporting somebody based on what their skin color is.
Well,
it
right.
should be based on their philosophy.
But if
and
you're
their
going to
ideology.
caucus based on your skin color and then kick people out because they don't, like, you know what? Just say that this is a Democrat caucus.
Right. Yeah.
And be done with it.
But you're in a party that is checking off boxes constantly. Look at their press secretary. Look at their vice president. I mean, this is how they get people
It is
today.
interesting, though. If you look at the way the Democrats divide themselves, they have the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how Republicans divide themselves.
Freedom Caucus.
There you go. That's all you need. That's all you need to know.
Just vote on that.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Also, real quick, since John
Problem solved.
Since John Fetterman's absolute debacle of an attempt to debate Dr. Oz the other day, he's brought in how much money? People rushing to donate to his campaign. The last report I saw said over $1 million. And Virginia, you were just telling me.
As far as I know, it is now over $2 million.
Why?
And, you know, and everybody's complaining that they're bullying the guy who had a stroke. You know who's bullying him?
His wife.
The people in his campaign that have allowed him to keep going.
His wife.
Yeah. He doesn't know what's going on around him, and people are rushing in to go, we got to prop this guy up.
Well, he may know what's going. That's the thing. We don't know because he may not have any cognitive issues. It may be an auditory processing thing only. But if you have a conversation with him, you wouldn't know that.
Wow. Money well spent there, folks, right? Something like that. All right, just ahead. Heartwarming story of a man who has his heart in the right place, tries to return a lost symbol of love. And then I'll tell you how it turned out. Right around 6:50, right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning, made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by NetSpend All Access Account. There's an accident reported at the intersection of Clarkson and Clayton Road. 55 northbound, heavy traffic in the right lanes between Butler Hill Road and 270, and 55 northbound also slowing between Bayless and Germania. 270 northbound from 55 to McDonald, traffic starting about 21 minutes. 270 westbound from 5570 in Illinois to McDonald, you're looking at a 24-minute commute. And 40 from downtown to 270, traffic running 13 minutes. NetSpend All Access Account. Get the account designed for your everyday mobile banking needs. Banking services provided by and accounts established by Pathword. NA member FDIC. Deposit accounts opening is subject to registration and ID verification. Terms and costs apply. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
When is a financial help show not just a financial help show? When it's Pocket Watching with JT, the caller-driven financial talk show focused on helping you get your money right. Jason Thornton is a certified financial planner licensed in both tax and investments. You get JT's real reaction to all your money and business questions. Plus, you get JT's take on all the latest financial news. This is not just another financial show. Pocket Watching with JT now every Friday night at 8 p.m. on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Columbo here for Agers Heating and Air Conditioning. We trust Agers with our home because their number one priority is doing right by the customer. Temperatures are changing outside, and as we transition from warmer temps to cooler ones, if you have any issues keeping your family comfortable, don't wait. Call the great team at Agers so they can address the issue before it gets worse. Because whether it's repairs or replacement, Agers is there with the clarity and attention to detail your home deserves. Contact Agers now at 636-242-6515 or through their website, callagers.com.
What if everything you thought and believed to be true about owning and buying your home turned out to be wrong?
Straightforward, objective advice on the right way to make the most out of every dollar you put into your home.
We're the only country that has one of those. Most other countries, considering like Canada, the UK, they don't have long-term fixed-rate mortgages like that. They're all variable-rate mortgages.
HomeWise with Michael Midget, Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
The midterm election.
Decision 22 News.
It's going to put some pressure on all of us to up our game.
Decision 22 Analysis.
A midterm election route.
Decision 22 Opinion.
You're going in for a problem.
Decision 2022 happens on News Talk STL. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and NewstalkSTL.com.
In 15 minutes, we've got Luke Rosiak from the Daily Wire. Virginia, you've heard of the Daily Wire, right?
Yes.
You're familiar with it. Okay, yep. So Luke's going to be with us. A couple different things he's written recently I think is interesting. One has to do with the elections. Some of the Democrats were going really hard to try to pick what they thought would be the most beatable candidates in some part of the country, and it may be biting them in the butt in some areas.
Yes.
Also, when you look back now, it's interesting when you look back over how government overreacted to a COVID-19 virus. Comparing the red states and the blue states is very, very interesting. The more we look back, the more that we here on the right side of the ideological spectrum are able to go, we were right, you were wrong, we were right, you were wrong, we were right, you were wrong. You had no business taking over and micromanaging people's lives, and everything from health outcomes to apparently now education is showing that the best approach would have been to not lock down everybody. So we'll have those conversations right around 7:05. It's 6:51 right now. Virginia Kruta from the aforementioned Daily Wire is in for Gabe today, and Ken Williams, as always, is here as well. Okay, check this out. Let's go across the pond for this story here. A man is walking down the English Channel in England, and lo and behold, he comes across somebody's wedding band that's not with its owner. And he thinks, that's awful. And so he made it his mission to find the owner of this wedding band. It was obviously a woman's wedding band.
God, where do you start?
I know, exactly. So here's what happened. The man's name is Steve Andrews, and he found it. It was on the banks, so it washed up, and he was doing the metal detector thing, and that's how he found it. And it had a date on it, 1989. So that's where he started with, weddings that happened in 1989. And so he started to track down the owner, and it took him a while, but he found her.
Wow.
Yeah. Found the woman that belonged to. Turns out that she went through a nasty divorce, and she threw it into the English Channel and was mad at him for bringing it back to her.
And then I think you were going to say, and then they got married.
No, nothing like that. And she went, that was a terrible breakup, terrible divorce. I can't stand my ex. I threw it in there. Why are you bringing this back to me? And she made him promise that next time he goes along the English Channel that he will chuck it back into the English Channel.
Take it to the pawn shop. Get a few bucks for it.
Actually, that's probably what I would be tempted to doing. Of course, this is a weird story where that would probably somehow end up back to her because, not that I believe that fate brings you into things, but that would be one of those where you could see it 2 years from now. She ends up going to a pawn shop and seeing her old ring there or something. I told that guy to throw it into the English Channel.
Ooh, that would be like a curse or something.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh my goodness!
Did you see the background on this guy? Apparently, he's done this before.
He's found the rings and taken them to people.
He made this is from the New York Post. He last made headlines in June when the Jersey Evening Post reported how he helped a newlywed man recover his wedding ring after a honeymoon paddling expedition. So he's done this before.
It sounds like the guy's got his heart in the right place.
Oh, yeah. He seems like he's just... his recent discoveries come from a 1/13th shilling from 1861, World War II German projectiles, and everyday jewelry. So apparently he does this a lot.
So he's an underwater jewelry hunter.
Or along the beach jewelry hunter.
Well, yeah.
He does the metal. My first wedding band is in the ocean somewhere. My wife and I were in where were we? We were in the Bahamas somewhere, and we were at the beach, and a big wave kind of knocked us over a little bit, and I went and my hands sucked down into the sand, and when I stood up, I could feel the ring getting yanked right off my finger, and so I dove right in, looking around everywhere, trying to find it. All the locals are laughing at me. They're like, dude, that thing's 300 or 400 yards out in the ocean already, man. That thing's gone. You're not getting that back.
Yeah, the only thing I've ever lost is a pair of sunglasses. So.
Yeah, I've lost a few of those. Now, fortunately for me, though, we didn't have a gold or silver band for me. Mine was actually just a tungsten band because of things like that.
That's what my husband's is, too. And mine is silver. I have a white gold band, and then I have a silver one. But I generally take them off before I go down to the beach because of things like that.
Yeah.
About 17 years ago, a friend, next door neighbor, actually, he got special permission to use one of those detectors at the you know where the boathouse is. They drained that to clean
Park?
it. Yeah, in Forest Park, they drained it to clean it. And he could only get, there was so much in there, he could only get about 8 feet in.
Wow.
Until they said, look, you got to go. We can't have you in here. It took so long. He was picking things up. He had so much stuff. There's so much stuff still in that water underneath.
I'm sure. Absolutely believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, people are paddling around there all the time. And yeah, I'm sure there's probably thousands and thousands of dollars worth of metals.
I mean, think just 1904 alone. That was there at that time.
Yeah. Right. Well, and it's not always jewelry or anything like that, but we always have, whenever we go to the beach, my kids and I have a contest because it was my dad's thing to find weird stuff. He would go out he'd go down to the beach and he'd come back. He was a runner, and so he'd go down and he'd run on the beach early in the morning. And he'd come back and he'd have like 3-4 pairs of sunglasses that other people had lost on his forehead as he was running. He did it because it looked ridiculous, but he'd find like toys and other things. And so we went to the beach a couple of years ago, and my son, who is now 20, he found a plastic toy shark and 3 unopened cans of Miller Lite. Just on a walk down the beach.
Part of me wants to know the story behind that, but part of me really doesn't want to know the story.
Well, they weren't all together.
This
was like over about a half a mile. He'd be like, find a can of beer, and then like 5 minutes later, Mom, there's another one. And so
sounds like it's somebody's cooler tipped over.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Or at some point, somebody heard this yelled, "Cops!"
Yeah, could be too.
Quick, bury him.
Everybody had to run.
Yeah, so we find fun, but it is kind of entertaining, the stuff that you find washed up, or you can imagine what you might find under the sand if you were going to dig a little bit.
I just kind of feel bad for the guy who knocked on this woman's door or found her at work or wherever she was, thinking she was going to be so happy to get this ring back, and then ends up hearing, "Throw it back. There's a reason it was in the water."
What are you doing?
Oh, jeez.
After all of his time and effort.
All right, just ahead, let's compare red and blue states when it comes to how did those COVID lockdowns work for kids. I think we know the answer. Also, Democrats trying to pick their opponents. Well, congratulations, you got what you want, but be careful, you might get what you want. I'll explain right around 7:05 here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Newstalk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Packages start at $29.99 a month with signed agreement. Restrictions apply. Speak to a representative for complete offer details. See Vivint.com for license details. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners, if you're looking for the best in home security and smart home technology at a price you can actually afford, we have great news. Now you can get Vivint's award-winning home security systems starting at about $1 a day. U.S. News and World Report has recognized Vivint as the best professionally installed home security system of 2022. And right now, you can get Vivint's home security technology for about $1 a day. Plus, get free professional installation from a licensed technician. Protect your home and loved ones for as low as $1 a day. Call right now for your free home security consultation.
800-561-3405. 800-561-3405. 800-561-3405. That's 800-561-3405.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewstalkSTL.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The Commerce Department this morning to be releasing its latest snapshot of the economy, the gross domestic product. A survey of economists by the data firm FactSet finds that most of them expect the report will show a 2% growth in the economy in the third quarter.
2% would reverse annual declines of 1.6% in the first quarter of this year and 0.6% for the second quarter.
That's correspondent Donna Warder. Shortage of diesel fuel is worsening. Just 25 days' worth of supply on hand. According to oilprice.com, America's stockpiles of diesel fuel have fallen to a 14-year low. America's Strategic Petroleum Reserve is at its lowest level since 1984, as President Biden continues draining it, hoping to keep a lid on skyrocketing gas prices ahead of the crucial midterm elections. And speaking of those elections, the Senate's Republican point man for the midterms says there's every indication that his party will recapture both the House as well as the Senate.
I think it's going to be a good election night for us.
That prediction from Florida Senator Rick Scott, who heads up the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Scott says his optimism is based on early voting and the polls, and says there's especially good news for some GOP candidates in tight races or in states that normally lean Democrat.
It's a good year for us. We're going to have a better turnout. So if you're down a couple, you got a really good chance of winning.
Senator Rick Scott of Florida was interviewed by the Salem Radio Network. Bob Agnew reporting.
As Ukrainian forces advance on southern Ukraine, Russian authorities in the region have started evacuating tens of thousands of civilians near the strategic city of Kherson. The local governor there says more than 70,000 residents from the area have been moved. On Wall Street, Dow futures up 194 points, and NASDAQ futures down 64 points. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Relief factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold, the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. There's a report of an accident at the intersection of Clarkson and Clayton Road, and taking a look at traffic times, 55 northbound, there is a slowdown between Weber Road and Virginia. This is for that ongoing construction work that has the roadway reduced to 2 lanes in that area. Also heavy traffic between Butler Hill and 270. 270 northbound, drivers are tapping the brakes between Gravois and Big Bend, and 40 from downtown to 270, traffic's running about 13 minutes this morning. At Lowe's, every pro is an MVP. MVP's Pro Rewards members visit Lowe's now and earn bonus points on products and brands such as DeWalt. Then, redeem for Lowe's e-gift cards and more. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees. Lowes.com/MVP's bonus points for details. Now through October 28th. I'm Kat from the Newstalk STL Traffic Center.
From the Newstalk STL Weather Center.
Another chilly morning out there. Some frost in some of the colder areas early this morning, but partly cloudy skies and a nice day with a high of about 61 degrees this afternoon. Increasing cloudiness this evening, becoming kind of cloudy late this afternoon and this evening. Lows tonight in the 40s, continue dry and cool on Friday with a high in the mid-60s. Should be good for Friday night football and trunk or treats on Friday evening. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting, soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
Are you the type of person who loves their community and wants it to be the best it can be? Now it's easier than ever to do your part. Go to recyclemode.com to see just how easy it is to recycle the right way. Or if you already recycle and want to be as efficient as possible, recyclemode.com can tell you what should and should not be recycled in your area. Become part of the clean recycling movement today. It's the right thing to do. Sponsored by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
What citizen wouldn't want to make America great again?
Live and local.
And their leadership has been substandard.
I think the word substandard is immensely polite.
This is News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple dog dare you!
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
We have got new information regarding the school shooter that murdered 2 people on Monday. We'll get to that around 7:35. Here in just a moment, we're going to chat with Luke Rosiak from the Daily Wire and get an update on his couple of things that he's written as well. Blue state, red state, the test scores show devastating toll of school lockdowns. So if you had a government that was real quick to lock your kids down, those officials in government really did a disservice to your kids. But we've been warning about that for a couple of years now. It is 7:07. I'm Mike Ferguson, and I've got Virginia Kruta in here from the Daily Wire, and we're going to chat with your reporter, Luke Rosiak, here in just a few minutes. Ken Williams is in here as well. And also he wrote an interesting article regarding and this goes back, I guess, to the Claire McCaskill tactic that we've seen in recent years, where at the time when she intentionally wanted to drive voters to Todd Akin, thinking that he would be the most likely to make a mistake or that she'd be most competitive against him, and she turned out to be correct. Although, I really liked Todd. Todd's he was a great guy. He was a good man. But she was very, very strategic in that and trying to pick the opponent that she got. Well, now you've got some Democrats who are doing this around the country, and it may not work out as well for them this time.
Right. And, Todd Aiken, his family and my family go way back. I went to church with his family when we were younger. So, I knew Todd Aiken, the man, long before I knew anything about his political.
Yeah.
But
we'll get to that in just a moment here. We've got Luke Rosiak from the Daily Wire. Hey, Luke, good to talk to you again. I got somebody in here that you may know. You may have heard of Virginia Kruger, right?
Good to see you. Good to hear from you guys.
Hey.
All right, two things I want to get to. Some of your recent articles going back to the school shutdowns. And we know now, well, frankly, what so many of us had been arguing for years. You're going to set these kids back. You're going to hurt these kids. You're going to cost them. You're stealing their education from them. And we were told, no, has to be done. Has to be done. Well, now we have enough data looking back to know that we were right. It did not have to be done. And the devastation to these kids, not just educationally, but emotionally as well. You looked at whether there was a difference between the red states and the blue states being more likely to lock things down. What was found?
Well, the National Assessment of Educational Progress came out last week, which is like the most authoritative test for showing how kids are doing, and there was no progress. We went back 20 years, but this was largely concentrated on the states that had almost no school during the 2020 to 2021 school year. This was states like Virginia, Washington State, Oregon, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Vermont. These are where we saw like 9 to 13% reductions in the number of kids that have even basic proficiency in math and reading. And so this is really terrible. I mean, it's pretty hard to catch up. This test looks at fourth graders and eighth graders. And if you don't have a basic mastery of reading when you're in fourth grade, that can kind of follow you for the rest of your life. So it was a bit of a grab bag as far as the states that were kind of open in the mid-tier. But what you saw is the states that were closed the longest had by far the most devastating drops. And this is 2 years after the pandemic, so it's still lingering.
Right. And I live in I live in what I would call a purple state with a really big blue center. I live in Illinois, and so obviously Chicago is bright blue, but then the rest of the state is pretty much rural and purple to red even. And so, like where I was, my daughter, for example, went back to school. She had to wear a mask for an entire year, but she did go back to school. She missed like the last 2 or 3 months of first grade, and that was it. And she was lucky. But what I think is interesting is you'll see states now that have that kind of dichotomy where they have major urban centers where the kids are way behind. And then you have these broad expanses of more rural areas where the kids did go back to school. And they did. And what's going to happen as far as like school funding when Chicago says we need more money, and they're already putting twice as much in per student as the other schools throughout the state. What happens when they do that and they say, well, we need more money, but you have half the population performing and the other half not? Because do you see what I'm saying? Like it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of square that.
Yeah, absolutely. In some cases, it was state policy that led to fairly uniform either opening or closing, but in other cases, it's typically the Democrat-controlled urban centers where the teachers' unions had the most power. And so it is poor kids that are more affected than rich kids, if only because poor kids are more likely to live in Democrat areas. And so they're going to chalk it up to racism, but it's the problem is they're Democrats. And so, where this is going to result in bigger racial and economic stratification, and then the answer is going to be, as the Democrats often say, more money. But, I think people are kind of catching on to the fact that money doesn't correlate to academic outcomes in schools. The federal government, on average, we spend $20,000 a year per kid. In places like D.C., it's $30,000 a year per kid. So you picture a family of, 4 in the inner city, and this is a mom where taxpayers are spending, $80,000 plus on her kids just for education in public schools each year. I think the teachers kind of know at this point money isn't going to solve the problem. And it is funny because they already did get billions of dollars for COVID. Supposedly, if you gave the teachers this money, they were going to open schools, right? And they didn't do it. They just kind of kept the money, and in many cases, it still hasn't been spent.
Good morning, Luke. This is Ken Williams. We've had 2.5 years or more of data and information about everything being locked down, and we're finding all this information. Now, heading up they're talking about now that, the flu is unprecedented now. We've got RSV, we've got a lot of different things, and COVID still. What do you think the chances are they're going to do the same thing again? They're going to try and lock things down, even with all of the data that we have today?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think part of it depends on, in the next 2 weeks, whether there's consequences for politicians who basically turned over their decision-making authority to teachers' unions. If they got away with it, there's really no reason not to do it again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in purple states like Virginia and so many other states, maybe even Chicago, maybe even Illinois, where people are like, typically we voted for Democrats in the past, but look, man, you came for our kids, and we're not going to forget that.
Yep.
Well,
because there's always a reason, and with RSV, all this stuff, a lot of this is because the kids were not in school last year. They didn't develop an immune system, and so now we're seeing more illness precisely because of COVID policies.
Yep, and what you said about the teachers' unions controlling what the policies that were being made. Illinois, in specific, has a ballot initiative right now. They're trying to amend the Illinois Constitution to essentially give the unions control over state education policy, even more than they already have. And it's an anti-right-to-work bill. We've talked about it on this station before, but it's huge. And it's Amendment 1 to the Illinois Constitution, and if this passes, the unions will have a stranglehold on the education system, and there will be no right to work. It actually builds into the Constitution a provision that says that the legislature cannot pass a right to work law ever. That's what they're trying to do in Illinois. So here's hoping that you're right and that the parents are paying attention, because if they're not, the state is in trouble.
Yeah, and these new test results that came out, in some cases they do break the results down for large cities. And one thing that stood out is Chicago went down and Miami went up. And so, you look at these large cities, one in Florida, one in Illinois. Amazingly, Miami-Dade actually improved during the pandemic. And so we're still kind of waiting on all those apologies for Ron DeSantis. And I don't know, I guess we shouldn't hold our breath.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I know we're talking with Luke Rosiak from the Daily Wire. And one of the other things, we don't have time to dig into it too deep, is in some areas around the country, Democrats were really pushing, saying, hey, we want that candidate over there. That's who we've got the best chance of beating. Kind of biting them in the butt in a couple areas, isn't it?
Yeah, this is one of those stories that's going to kind of anger both Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats spent $44 million propping up Trump-endorsed candidates in the Republican primary. They actually wanted the Trump candidates to win because they thought it would be easier to beat them in the general election. Obviously, the risk is that they win the primary and then they also win the general.
Right.
And so you have the Democrats kind of saying these are threats to democracy, but they're actually subsidizing their campaigns and hoping that they win. One thing that's interesting is that these Democrats actually spent more helping Trump candidates win than Trump himself did. Trump has only spent about $9 million helping his endorsed candidates get over the finish line, versus that $44 million that the Democrats spent.
Man, okay, and you can find those articles at dailywire.com. Hey, Luke, appreciate you being on the program, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right, 314-912-1019. Just ahead here, we've got an update on the case. Remember the case in Louisiana, Missouri, where the police chief was arrested after a couple people overdosed? Well, we've got new information. Turns out there was also somebody else in that apartment with him. You may be surprised who it was. I'll tell you who it is at 7:22 on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Northbound on Clarkson Avenue, there's a report of an accident at Clayton Road, and there's construction delays on 70 westbound between Madison and Branch, and as you approach the Stan Musial Veterans Memorial Bridge. 270 northbound, slow 55 to Gravois, and 55 northbound, stop and go Weber Road to Virginia. This is for ongoing construction work that has the roadway reduced to 2 lanes in that area. At Lowe's, every pro is an MVP. MVP's Pro Rewards members visit Lowe's now and earn bonus points on products and brands like DeWalt. Then redeem for Lowe's e-gift cards and more. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees. Lowes.com/MVP's bonus points for details. Now through October 28th. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Have you been floored? Not until you've gone to Michael's Flooring Outlet. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Save money and get quality at Michael's. Plus, your installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's. You can shop in store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
Are you looking for the cheapest prices on car insurance? Then call the Cheap Car Insurance Hotline right now. Hey, you're guaranteed to save money on your car insurance. Most car insurances can be canceled at any time. That means if you find a better deal, you can switch right away. We're not just one company. We offer most of the major brands of car insurance. We're like a discount supermarket for car insurance. And it doesn't matter if you have a good record or a bad driving record. Our agents are experts at finding you the right car insurance for your needs. Our average customer saves hundreds of dollars a year when they call us to switch. So why don't you make this 100% free call right now and see how much you can save on your car insurance. Paid for by AIS Insurance.
800-721-5741. 800-721-5741. 800-721-5741. That's 800-721-5741.
Fox News commentary.
A federal judge ruled top White House officials, including Fauci, must comply with an investigation into the government's alleged collusion with big tech to censor COVID content. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
On 9/11, 2,977 people were killed in the worst terrorist attacks of their kind on American soil. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been supporting America's heroes and their families ever since. Our nation's heroes, people who put their lives on the line for our country and our communities, need your help now more than ever. Join Tunnel to Towers on its mission to do good in their honor. Donate $11 a month at t2t.org. That's T2T.org.
You've been at all skeptical of anything COVID related in the last almost 3 years. You know, big tech has been working overtime to keep you from expressing it. Well, the attorneys general from Missouri and Louisiana are calling BS and launched an investigation that could implicate top Biden officials, including Dr. Fauci, into the censorship collusion ring. Leaked documents, emails, and memos show top medical advisors communicating with big tech platforms to censor, silence, and ban people in things that didn't go along with the White House COVID narrative. But now a federal judge ruled to hold them all accountable, or at the very least comply with the investigation. At last, as someone who's been routinely censored by big tech for so much as questioning COVID policy, I hope justice, truth, and transparency finally come a-knocking. The love triangle between big tech, big government, and big pharma is a threat to our republic. I'm Tommy Lahren.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows.
Mike Ferguson in the morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps.
Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble.
Subscribe and watch
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 941, 991 HD3 and NewstalkSTL.com.
We've got updated information on the shooter, the murderer who killed two people at the Visual Arts High School in St. Louis. Turns out that he was a known person to police. So I'll give you those updates just ahead. It's 7:23 right now. Got Virginia Kruder from the Daily Wire in for Gabe Pfeiffer today. Ken Williams is here, of course. Real quick, and then I'm going to tell you that update for the Louisiana, Missouri police chief who was arrested for drug trafficking, among other things. Real quick, did you hear about this in down in the Branson area yesterday? Silver Dollar City. You know, they've got that train that runs around there and through that area.
Yeah.
It derailed and tipped over yesterday.
With people on it?
Yeah. There were 7 people who were hurt, 1 employee, and then 6 of the passengers. Nobody's hurt seriously, but 7 people were taken to the hospital. And it's the steam train. You know, I've ridden on that before.
Yeah.
And it goes through the Ozark countryside just outside of Silver Dollar City. And so it's in Stone County. It happened around a little bit after 6 o'clock last night in the woods. In a wooded area on the park property. So they're still trying to figure out why the train actually derailed and tipped over. But the fortunate thing is that there weren't any serious injuries. But how bizarre that the amusement park train actually tipped over.
Yeah.
On that. That's really weird.
You would think that it would be the rail problem, problem.
Yeah, probably. That's what I'm guessing. But yeah, so at least nobody was hurt seriously on that. Okay, Here's a follow-up to a story. I guess this first came out about week and a half ago, something like that. Louisiana, Missouri, in Pike County, Missouri. William Jones is the police chief. He and his girlfriend were, I guess, partying it up in his apartment, and her 2 brothers overdosed on fentanyl. One of them died. The other was revived with Narcan. The girlfriend actually apparently overdosed as well, but she survived through. Well, we got some new information on this. According to a police investigation, it looks like there was actually one of the police officers off duty was there with him. Now, so far, I don't see any charges filed, but that off-duty police officer is the one that investigators now believe called the non-emergency number, which generally are not recorded, to call authorities and let people know that there was a death in the apartment. So they didn't call 911 because people were ODing. They called the non-emergency number to deal with the fact that somebody had died. So the police chief, 50-year-old William Jones, he now faces additional charges. He's scheduled to appear in court on November 2nd. And his charges now, when you put them all together, 2nd-degree drug trafficking, 2 counts of tampering with evidence in a felony investigation, 2 counts of possession of a controlled substance, 1 charge of unlawful possession of drug paraphernalia, and then 1 charge of stealing of a controlled substance. So, this is Louisiana, which is, 80 miles or so from downtown St. Louis. And so what you've got here is we got a couple of calls, if I remember right, from Louisiana, people listening to us on 94.1 who are saying they've known that there's been something wrong with the police chief situation for a long time, but now he's in jail. I mean, he is still in jail according to the reports as of early this morning.
Wow.
Yeah, the mayor of Louisiana, he was on television and he was saying yeah, I knew it was going to be just a matter of time before this would happen. So I think the town kind of knew about this guy.
Right.
Which makes me wonder why they didn't do something about it. But, I don't know.
Right. If everybody...
They're probably afraid to.
Yeah, if everybody in town knows that, man, this guy is bad news, there's something going on, or whatever the case is, okay, then deal with it.
Right.
But
right.
That one guy called in, and he wouldn't even give his name.
No.
He was afraid.
No. Yeah.
And so sometimes in the small towns, that kind of thing happens, which means when you've got that sort of thing, something has gone incredibly corrupt.
Yeah.
And that's what it sounds like has happened. So my hope is that community of Louisiana, Missouri, and Pike County, Missouri in general, that they will be able to say, okay, we have to clean house if there needs to be a house cleaning, if there's anybody else who's affected by the corruption, and start fresh. And man, that takes some lumps. I mean, that's not just embarrassing for a community. I'm sure they don't love the fact that the entire country was talking about their police chief overseeing a couple of overdoses, including an overdose death in his apartment with his girlfriend who was 25 years younger than him. I mean, what a bizarre situation.
Yeah, there's some resilient people up there in Pike County. I used to work up that way. In fact, I would drive down here every day and work at 101 The River, and then I would drive up there and work at KPCR at 94.1, where we're at right now. And these people there are just awesome people in general. So I really hope for the best with everybody.
Except for apparently the police chief.
Apparently, the police chief.
Well, yeah.
At least one officer, and I haven't seen a report on that officer having charges filed against him. So we'll see whether that actually happens. And the girlfriend is also facing a couple of charges as well. And one of her brothers overdosed alongside her and the other brother as well. What an absolute mess of a situation. Jeez. Okay, just ahead here, and this is getting even more intense, is that the shooter who murdered 2 people at the high school in St. Louis on Monday, turns out that police knew this guy because his family had called a number of times saying there's some serious mental health situations, this could be dangerous, and so they'd encountered him a number of times already. We still don't know the full details of what happened, but the question is, could this have been avoided? I don't know the answer. I don't know that the answer is yes, but I'll tell you the new information that we do have here in about 4.5 minutes right here on 101.9 and 94.1. And then also at 7:50, Tulsi Gabbard went on with Mike Huckabee on his TV show the other day, or last night, I guess. And she had some interesting things to say comparing Republicans and Democrats, but it led me actually to another question. Is there going to be an upswing in independent voters, and can independent voters actually flex some electoral muscle if they're not working within the two-party system? I think it's an interesting question. We'll get to that in about 20 minutes right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on NewstalkSTL.com. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and NewstalkSTL.com. If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values
haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
From the News Talk STL newsroom, I'm Joey Vasovich. A St. Louis County jury convicted a father and son with assault Wednesday after they attacked another man during a Pokemon Go hunt in Kirkwood Park 4 years ago. The 73-year-old father held the victim underwater and tried to drown him in a lake while his 33-year-old son punched him. Central Stage, a new venue from the Kranzberg Arts Foundation, will open to the public in the Grand Center Arts District starting in November. Local music fans may remember the location as the former house of the Creepy Crawl and the stage at KDHX. Central Stage will include a full bar and an intimate 140-capacity performance space. The Whitaker St. Louis International Film Festival is back for its 31st iteration, kicking off on Thursday, November 3rd and running through Sunday, November 13th. This year's film festival features both virtual and in-person screenings of 256 films at venues around St. Louis, including the Contemporary Art Museum, Plaza Frontenac, the Galleria, Webster University, and Washington University. And in sports, Cardinals pitcher Adam Wainwright has agreed to a one-year extension with the team. The 41-year-old right-hander said that this will be his last season in the majors. St. Louis City SC announced yesterday that their stadium is back to full power after water damaged the facility back in September. The soccer team announced the fix with a National Lampoon's-themed video showing Clark Griswold flipping on the stadium lights. For in-depth coverage of these stories and more, go to NewstalkSTL.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. 270 northbound stop-and-go traffic between 55 and Gravois. 70 westbound downtown is jammed between Broadway and Branch. This is for ongoing construction work in the area. Also slowing down westbound on the Stan Musial Veterans Memorial Bridge from that construction work. 55 northbound jammed Weber Road to Gasconade. This is for that ongoing construction work that has the roadway reduced to 2 lanes. And northbound Clarkson, there is a report of an accident as you approach Clayton Road. Want to save big on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Shop Blindster now and save 45% off any order. Just use the code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Shop today. Blindster.com. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Another chilly morning out there. Some frost in some of the colder areas early this morning, but partly cloudy skies and a nice day with a high of about 61 degrees this afternoon. Increasing cloudiness this evening, becoming kind of cloudy late this afternoon and this evening. Lows tonight in the 40s, continue dry and cool on Friday with a high in the mid-60s. Should be good for Friday night football and trunk or treats on Friday evening. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
In St. Charles District 105, there's one clear choice for state representative. Adam Schwadron has fought hard to punish porch pirates, cut taxes, keep our elections safe, and secure and protect personal property rights. Next year, Adam Schwadron will work to remove Soros-funded prosecutors that are refusing to do their jobs and jeopardizing our safety. On November 8th in St. Charles, vote for Republican Adam Schwadron for state representative.
Paid for by Citizens for Schwadron, Mike Summers, CPA, Treasurer.
Stay top of mind with your customers, stand out from the competition, and drive productivity with a podcast for your business from Epic STL Podcasts. Log on to NewstalkSTL.com and click on the Epic STL Podcast button to learn more.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
The next Missouri Senator, Nick Schroer.
You know, it is good that Nancy Pelosi's not in America right now. It's less destruction that she can partake in. I can't get over her eyebrows. I mean, if you watch her eyebrows and watch inflation, it shows you the trends in inflation rising.
Huh?
And during Trump, her eyebrows were normal.
It's an economic indicator. Her eyebrows.
Really is. I don't know if it's the Botox or the vodka.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Do you have a property that is more hassle than is worth? Hi, this is David with House Sold Easy, and I buy houses cash. If you own a property and you want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-293-3000. Do you own an ugly property, a behind on mortgage payment property, a lazy tenant that won't pay rent property, a too much junk and clutter property, or even a, hey, I'm curious about a fair cash offer property? Well, don't worry. I buy them all, and I want to make you a fair cash offer. Call me at 314-293-3000.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Joe Biden has made Americans poor.
They have no plan to fix all the problems they created.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. You're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
Conventional wisdom says that if you want to make a difference in politics and then obviously policy, then you got to work through one of the two party systems. Is there maybe a new wave of people deciding to go independent, and can independent voters flex their muscles, our muscles, both collectively and individually? We'll talk about that right around 7:50 here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. I've got Virginia Cruda in the studio with us today. She's in for Gabe Pfeiffer. Ken Williams is here. My name's Mike Ferguson. It is 6:37, just about. Updates to this, just the worst tragedy St. Louis has had in a long time. Obviously, the school shooting at the Performing Visual Arts High School on Arsenal and Kings Highway. Mm-hmm. It turns out that just days ago, really, just a week or so ago, the police were called on the guy who went on to be the school shooter. Family was calling, mental health reasons. The mother was saying, "Get this gun out of here," and so it turns out there have been 6, at least that we know of, 6 calls to his home. Now, remember, he left this note behind saying, I don't have any family, I don't have any social life, never had a girlfriend, and all of these isolation type things. Well, it turns out he's got a family who's been trying to get him help for a long time. They've tried to have him committed for mental health treatment. They've tried to put him on medicine. This is all according to the police investigation so far. And there have been calls for domestic disturbance and other mental health hotline type calls as well the police responded to. And at one point, the police, at the request of his mother, took the gun away that he ended up using in the murders. And it went to somebody else, saying, all right, you take this, get away from him. And he ended up getting the gun back. Right. We don't know how or why that happened, but it was taken from him at one point. Now, this is where I think it's sometimes harder for some people to stick to principles, not necessarily for everybody in this room. I don't want law enforcement to have the ability to come in and say, you know what, somebody's a little queasy about the way you're acting. We're just going to take your stuff, any stuff, guns or anything else. Okay. But here's the question is, could this have been prevented when you've got repeated calls for mental health breakdowns, especially domestic disturbances? At least 1 or 2 of the calls that police had out there, they did not complete a police report on, so we don't know what happened in those. But the idea that this came out of absolutely nowhere appears to not be true, because he was known to be somebody who was at risk or potentially dangerous. And you would think that if he was known by police, that he was probably known by others as well.
Right. Yeah. It's a difficult situation. And obviously what's unfortunate, and we've addressed this, you've said it a couple times today, even when stuff like this happens, we spend so much time trying to figure out why it happened that the focus always gets shifted to the shooter instead of the victims. And even though we've done our best to not say his name over and over again, and I know at the Daily Wire, it is our policy to not name mass shooters, with certain exceptions being one, if the police are still looking for him and they're a person of interest, then we will share any information that we can to help the person get caught. But then once it's done, the decision was made not to give them the notoriety. And you've seen it over the years. Everybody knows the names of the shooters. They know the names of the shooters at Columbine. They know the names of the shooters at any number at Sandy Hook and Uvalde now. And you don't know the names of the kids.
Hyundai
You
Tucson
don't know the
versus
names
Toyota
of
Rev.
the victims. And I think that's something that we are working to change, and I think that's something we should be working to change.
Listener Cheryl called. She was heading up to Hannibal, and she said she didn't want to go on the air. She couldn't. She said, I just mess it all up. And I think the gist
It's okay. We mess it up all the time.
Yeah, I know. I tried to talk her into it, but anyway, it's okay.
Yeah.
But the gist of what she was saying was, okay, the police arrive a number of times. There are certain things, and I don't want to call them red flags because I don't like red flags. But at some point, the police should engage them to say, okay, this is the third time we're here. These are the circumstances. At this point, we are required to, at this point, do something more than just check in,
Well, what could they do though?
Well,
that's a tough question.
It's a mental health thing, is what it is, and I think it's something that needs to have a conversation. We don't know what it is. If anything could be done, it might be to a point, Mike, in Virginia, that they can't do anything still, but at least have the conversation about it.
Because when you're talking to somebody who's an adult, and if he's, I believe he was, 19?
He was 19, yeah.
He was 19.
And then the calls also came in last year, so 18.
So, but even at 18, his parents or his family can't necessarily have him involuntarily committed.
They tried.
No, but...
And so what I'm saying is you have to, as harsh as this sounds in the aftermath of something like this, he has rights too. and you can't minority report this. You can't.
No.
And so unless there is an immediate reason for the police to act, they can't.
Correct. And that's why I don't like the red flag law thing. That stuff can only lead to a bad outcome because of a neighbor or somebody else, a bad disgruntled relationship or something. But what I'm talking about is, like, for example, there could be, I don't want to say flag, but the police are talking to the parents. Who is it that's talking to these cops and telling them this information? Is it a neighbor or is it a parent? There's a difference there. It's a conversation we can have about how many times has he, they tried to take the gun away, you said, Mike, right?
They did take it away.
Oh, they did take it away.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, they didn't take it with them. They didn't confiscate it. They gave it to somebody else, but they took it out of his hands.
Now, that's another conversation. Do they take it with them? Do they give it? They said, I like the idea that they gave it to another person instead of taking it away. I don't like you said too. I don't like the idea of them walking in and saying, well, we have to take this now.
I don't know if Missouri has what's called a Baker Act or not. Some states do, some states don't. Are you guys familiar with Baker Act? Yeah, okay. So Baker Act is police arrive or paramedics arrive or somebody arrives and they say, wow, this is somebody having a meltdown, a breakdown. They are a danger to somebody, themselves, somebody else, and they can take them to a hospital involuntarily. Now, typically, you've got to get some sort of a court sign off on that. It's not a red flag law because it's not based on, what might happen. It is based on this is what we're seeing right now.
It's more like probable cause, but for a human being rather than evidence.
Yeah, it is. It is because you can refuse medical treatment. Yeah. I mean, you can be, if you're conscious and you're in a car accident and the ambulance shows up, you can refuse to go. You have that right. And they say, but you're hurt in all these different places. You're losing blood. I don't care. I don't want to go. Okay, well they'll leave you there. They'll do that. You can't be forced into that. Well, in a mental health situation, it's the same in a lot of states. Some states, I know Florida and some others have what they call, what people refer to as Baker Act law, which is where you can call and say, I think this person's dangerous, and they will go and assess. And if they think that there's an immediate danger, they can actually take you into custody and take you into a mental health facility for assessment and possible treatment. But then there's got to be, court rulings that adjudicate whether or not you lose your rights.
And of course, you run into issues like, especially with mental health, this is very tricky because you have a 19-year-old who has family members there who are making the calls, apparently. And the likelihood is they know this guy pretty well because they live with him or they have lived with him. This is if we're talking about family members. They know when he's acting differently than he would normally. Unless it is outrageous, the police who show up might not see what he's doing as abnormal. They might just say, okay, no, he's just being obnoxious. They don't necessarily, and so it's a much more difficult thing for police to come out and say, okay, we need to get this guy committed, where the parents can say, no, this is out of the ordinary. But if he's an adult and he's protesting,
and
they've got to weigh that too.
The police say that the family is not only cooperating, but they have been trying to get him help for a long time.
Yeah, and so that's good. That's a good thing to have.
Before everybody jumps onto the family, it looks like they've been trying. Sometimes people make evil decisions.
Right.
So we've got to talk about that. We've also got to look at those policies that the school district has of not having armed security guards. So there's a lot of factors here. 314-912-1019. Is there room for a rise of independent voters in this country? I think it's an interesting question. We can get to that here in just a little bit as well on 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Mucinex DM. 270 southbound before Dorset, there's emergency vehicles reported in the right lane. And taking a look at traffic times, 270 northbound, slow traffic between 55 and Tesson Ferry, and tapping the brakes, 44 to Big Bend. 55 northbound, there's about an 8-minute jam, stop and go traffic between Weber Road and Gasconade for that ongoing construction work that has the roadway reduced to 2 lanes. Not all coughs are the same. Buy Mucinex DM to get cough and chest congestion relief for 3 times longer than your typical 4-hour cough and chest congestion medicines. With Mucinex DM, it's not cold and flu season, it's always comeback season. Relief with Mucinex DM and nothing lasts longer. Among OTC cough and cold medicines, use as directed. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Joe Biden will throw billions of dollars to companies that commit to an ESG agenda. Well, we'll see what Robert Bork Jr., the president of the Antitrust Education Project, has to say about that Thursday at 10:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hi, I'm Bob Mahachek, and I'm running for state representative in the 92nd District. What do inflation, high energy prices, and out-of-control crime have in common? They're all the direct result of failed policies of the left. We've got to bring some common sense back into government. I'm proud to be endorsed by the St. Louis County Police Association and the Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. I'd appreciate your vote on November 8th. That's Bob Mahachek for state rep in the 92nd District. Thank you.
Paid for by Mahachek from Missouri, George Weinbright, Treasurer.
The Range St. Louis West is all about safety. That's why training is a critical part of what we do. No one wants to be in a situation where seconds count, but help is minutes away. But if that day comes, are you ready? No matter what your firearm experience level is, we have courses and instructors that can help. The Range St. Louis West is the area's premier training facility, shooting range, and all things firearms retail facility. Check us out online at therangestl.com or stop by and visit with our professional staff. The Range St. Louis West. Are you ready?
When it comes to spending your tax dollars and teaching your kids, governments and school districts should be an open book. But in Missouri, that's not always the case. Recently, the Show Me Institute sent out a sunshine law request to school districts across the state, asking for information on whether certain topics are being taught. Specifically, a controversial one called critical race theory was included in the list. Many districts didn't respond. Some wanted to charge large fees to process the documents. Lee's Summit outside Kansas City wanted over $35,000. A rural district, Morgan County, wanted $15,000. The Sunshine Law does allow charging a reasonable fee for sending out information, but there's nothing reasonable about $35,000 or $15,000. These districts should want to be transparent about their curriculums. Taxpayers deserve to know what their kids are being taught. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL. Enable our Alexa skill.
Hello.
Hey, Alexa.
Yes, I'm listening.
Play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and NewstalkSTL.com.
We might have time to get to this here in a couple minutes. If not, we'll try to get to it in the 8 o'clock hour. Is there room for a rise of the independent voter? Or do you need to just pick a side and work through the two-party system? Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard says she's going to try to go about it the independent route. She was asked about that the other day on Mike Huckabee's TV show. I've got a little bit of that conversation. It is 7:51 right now. If you're just joining us, we have some updated information that we've been talking about throughout the morning regarding the murderer who killed 2 people at the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School in St. Louis. It turns out there was a long history of calls by his family and police to his home. The family tried to get him committed, to get mental health treatment. They tried to get him on medicine. The police are telling us right now, as of what we know right now, that the family is doing everything they can, not only to help the police with the investigation, but they've been asking and begging for help for at least the last year, if not more. So police knew this guy. They knew that there were problems with this guy. Now, whether or not they were able to do anything that would stop it is one question. And secondly, knowing that there were I don't want to say red flags because people think about the laws, and that's not what we're talking about. But there were warning signs. Looking back in hindsight, that doesn't mean that we necessarily need to say, okay, well, now we're going to make changes that put at risk everybody else's freedom that can be abused.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to have rational, methodical approaches to dealing with these dangerous situations. Got Dave on the line here. Hey, Dave, you're on Newstalk STL. What's your take on it?
Hey, good morning, Mike. Now, no matter what, this guy's a crook, and he got what he deserves. My question is, you or VA said something about the police took the guy's firearm away and gave it to a family member. Did they violate federal law by not transferring through an FFL? This is a big talking point with Democrats right now, with the liberals. The police directly forced an unqualified or unchecked individual to receive a firearm without going through the process of 4473 form of background check.
Yeah,
that's a sticking point.
Yeah, that's one of the things where we don't have all the information yet.
Yeah, I don't think we know. I don't think we know whether or not the person. I would assume that if they were doing things by the book, they would have vetted the guy. Whoever they gave it to.
Tell you that a professional police officer would run the person's background and see, number one, are they a felon? Can they even possess a firearm? But that's also a federal law. So now you have that sticky point, and I don't know the weeds. You dig down in the weeds of the law. It may have been perfectly okay in the commission of the police officer's duties, but for the rest of us, that's a crime. At least here in Illinois, they'll lock you up for that, for not running a background check.
Here's what one of the news reports, I'll just read their words. The officers, in their response, handed it over to somebody else, an adult who was lawfully able to possess it. And that's in response to a call from the mother who said, This guy has a lot of problems, and we just discovered that he's got a gun.
Well, see, that's fair enough. That's more information. I jumped to a conclusion, and that's on me.
Well, no, you asked a question.
It's a good
no,
question,
it's good though, Dave.
You didn't jump to a conclusion. You asked a question. I mean, and that's
it's
what
worth
we do.
asking.
Right.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Love the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks,
Dave.
Thank you.
And that's that's where we're going to get more and more information, which is why I'm trying to make sure that we keep the mindset that's saying we don't know what we don't know yet. Which is, when Dave was mentioning, well, this is the left's talking points on this. Yeah, they jump to conclusions in hopes of getting, stricter gun control laws, anti-Second Amendment laws. And what I'm saying is, let's get all the information. And we may not like the answers to the questions that we get.
Right.
I mean, we need to be ready for that too, is that may be the case. So while we're saying, okay, what about the policies of the school district that says no armed security guards on campus? What about the policies that say, what do you do when you're dealing with somebody who is in a mental health crisis? Mm-hmm. At the same time, we're insisting that the conversation also include, okay, however, we do have individual rights and freedoms and a civil right to self-defense in this country, and the burden of proof should not necessarily be on us to prove that we get to keep the freedom. It needs to be the burden of proof on somebody else that we did something that would warrant our freedom being taken away. And that's the part of the conversation media and politicians don't like and get angry about when you say this is part of the conversation too.
Right. And, our last caller was from Illinois. I live in Illinois. In fact, I just got an update from the state of Illinois, from the Illinois State Police, saying that I need to update my FOID card, which if you live in Missouri, you don't know what that is.
Nope,
because
we don't have that here.
Firearm owner identification card. Mm-hmm. So before you can even buy a firearm in the state of Illinois, you must go to the government and beg them,
right,
and pay them for the privilege to exercise your Second Amendment right.
Totally unconstitutional.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to pay them, and you have to prove that you're not guilty of a crime before they will even allow you to exercise the right. And that is something that, we've talked about for a long time in Illinois. But
real quick, we got Steve, if you want to take him.
All right, Steve, got about a minute left before the break here. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I think Dave, had some good points, but he was conflating Illinois state law with federal law. And in federal law, a transfer between two private individuals of a gun is not subject to 4473 regulations. That's only from a licensed dealer to another person. And, of course, in Missouri, you can freely transfer between two private individuals. Now, when you put the police in the middle as an intermediary, that policeman may have some responsibility from a moral or ethical thing, but I'm not sure what the legal
and that's the thing.
That part is.
Yeah, there's a lot more that we still need to find out, but we do know it's getting more complicated almost by the day. Hey, appreciate you being on News Talk STL. We got an information break I've got to get to here in a second. 1019 941 News Talk STL.
Hi, this is State Representative Jim Murphy. Rising prices, crime, government overreach. These are issues on the minds of St. Louisans. As your state rep, I share your concerns. I filed legislation that reins in out-of-control bureaucrats, puts an end to gangs pilfering through our cars, and gets stolen guns off the streets. I have voted against out-of-control spending and voted for the biggest tax cut in Missouri history. I ask for your support in November as this work has just begun. Vote Jim Murphy, your state rep.
Paid for by Citizens for Murphy. Mary L. Murphy, Treasurer.
In times of economic uncertainty and chaos, your money means nothing. You may not even be able to get it from your bank or ATM. And the money you do have in the stock market will go down and down. What you can bank on is gold and silver. Gold and silver have been a reliable and trusted form of currency for thousands of years. Gold and silver have never been worth zero, and typically gold holds its value during economic turmoil. Call the Gold Hotline now and learn how to protect your money and your assets with gold and silver. And learn how to set up a new IRA or roll over your current one into a gold-backed IRA. Protect your money from the next market crash with gold and silver. Call now for your free gold guide.
800-281-4224. 800-281-4224. 800-281-4224. That's 800-281-4224.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
NewstalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. It is the latest snapshot of the economy, and it's just in. The Commerce Department reports the U.S. economy grew at a 2.6% annual rate in the third quarter, snapping 2 straight quarters of economic contraction. With President Biden surrendering American energy independence, you have to wonder if this kind of thing could happen here.
Europe's energy crisis, triggered by Russia slashing natural gas flows amid its war against Ukraine, has forced people to turn to cheaper heating sources like firewood. Restoring old traditions may be good, but as more people stock up and burn wood, prices have skyrocketed, shortages and thefts have been reported, and scams are emerging. Foresters are putting GPS devices into logs to track the valuable stocks, and fears are rising about the environmental impact of increased air pollution and tree cutting.
That's correspondent Charles de Ledesma in London. Guilty on all counts, the verdict quickly delivered by a jury in Wisconsin. This in the trial of a man who killed 6 people when he drove his SUV through the crowd at a Christmas parade.
It took a Waukesha, Wisconsin jury little more than 3 hours to find Darrell Brooks guilty on all 76 charges. Brooks was convicted Wednesday of killing 6 people and injuring dozens of others when he intentionally drove his Ford Escape into a Waukesha Christmas parade last November 21st. The verdict wraps up a trial in which Brooks defended himself, taxing Judge Jennifer DeRoe with bizarre legal theories and erratic outbursts. Tyler Pudliner, who was hit by Brooks's SUV while performing with the Waukesha South High School band, says the verdict will help all the victims to heal.
We're stronger than him, and it's been proven today. It's just another step forward in the process.
I'm Jennifer King.
Stock futures are mixed ahead of this morning's opening bell on Wall Street. Right now, the Dow futures up 268 points. NASDAQ futures are down 41 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly
And now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Mucinex DM. 55 northbound stop-and-go traffic between Weber Road and Gasconade. This is for ongoing construction work that has the roadway reduced to 2 lanes. 44 westbound, 70 westbound jam downtown from Washington Eads Bridge to St. Louis Avenue. This is for construction work in that area. Also westbound on the Stan Musial Bridge, also slowing down from construction work. 170 southbound tapping the brakes, Brentwood to 40, and 40 westbound jam from Hampton to Bellevue. Say goodbye to retaking medicine every few hours. Buy Mucinex DM to get cough and chest congestion relief for 3 times longer than typical 4-hour cough and cold chest congestion medicines. That's 3 times longer relief for chest congestion and cough. Nothing lasts longer. Among OTC cough and cold medicines, use as directed. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Another chilly morning out there. Some frost in some of the colder areas early this morning, but partly cloudy skies and a nice day with a high of about 61 degrees this afternoon. Increasing cloudiness this evening, becoming kind of cloudy late this afternoon and this evening. Lows tonight in the 40s, continue dry and cool on Friday with a high in the mid-60s. Should be good for Friday night football and trunk or treats on Friday evening. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by House Sold Easy. Looking to sell a house fast? Call David today at 314-293-3000. That's David with House Sold Easy at 314-293-3000.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
I've said it before. You need a proven conservative leader to represent Chesterfield and Jefferson City. Hello, I'm Ben Keithley, and I represented you on the Chesterfield City Council for 4 years. I was blessed to grow up in Chesterfield, and I pray my children will feel the same way. That's why I'm running. Better schools, safer neighborhoods, and smaller government. I'm Ben Keithley, and I'm asking for your vote for state representative.
Paid for by friends of Ben Keithley, Alan Keithley, Treasurer.
Decision 22 News.
Inflation, gas prices.
Decision 22 Analysis.
The things the American people want to hear about.
Decision 22 Opinion.
Same old tired talking points.
In St. Louis, Decision 2022 happens right here. News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
This is the kind of adventure I usually have to force upon us, and here it is, falling into our laps.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
They're buying it.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
Why don't you pop a squat, son?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin
A little bit earlier this morning, I noted that the newest member of Congress, Mayra Flores, Republican out of Texas, she's the first Mexican-born U.S. congressperson of either any party whatsoever. She happens to be a Republican. She happens to be conservative, and she says, "Ooh, wait, there's a Hispanic caucus. Okay, here's my application. Let me join the Hispanic caucus." And the Hispanic caucus said, "Nope, not you." And I'm sure she said, "Wait a minute, but I'm Latina. I'm within the demographics.
I
of
checked the box.
And they said nope, too conservative.
Well,
You don't-
I wouldn't be welcome at the Women's March.
That's true.
You're a woman.
I know, but I don't believe in killing babies.
But it's a women's march, not a baby killing march.
No, it's a baby killing
You
march.
say that, but they don't want anything to do with pro-life women.
Mm-hmm. Interesting article in Red State. It's called "As Florida is Poised to Become the Bellwether of Hispanic Voter Flight to the GOP, Democrats are Unraveling." It's written by Brad Slager. I think, Brad, am I saying that right? Is it Slager or Slager?
Slager.
Slager. Yeah, so Brad Slager joins me right now. Florida, obviously, their demographics are going to be different than other states. When you look at this particular case, and there's been a lot of attention to this particular part of America's vote does seem to be breaking to the right. One, what are the reasons for that? And two, when you say Democrats are unraveling, why can't they stop it?
Well, to answer your second part of your question, they can't help themselves. They can't break their own pattern, basically, of pandering, because it's kind of a twofold problem with the Democrats. One is that they look at Hispanics as a solitary group, as opposed to a variety of cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep approaching Hispanics as one voting bloc, as opposed to the Cuban sector, the Venezuelan sector, the Puerto Rican, the Mexican. They don't recognize those cultures independently. The second reason is that they're just so pre-programmed to treat them as a minority. So it's pure pandering on their policies is the way it works. And that's not what the Hispanic voter has been looking for over the span of a couple decades. There's been this shift taking place steadily that they are voting their best interest, not what they're told to vote.
Right, and it is interesting that you said that they're voting not their best, or they're voting their best interest and not what they're told to vote. If you watch like I do, so that other people don't have to, if you ever watch The View, you see Sonny Hostin, who is of Hispanic descent, and Ana Navarro, who is also of Hispanic descent. But Ana Navarro is from Nicaragua, and she fled as a child from political oppression. It's a lot harder to sell socialism to Ana Navarro than it is to sell it to Sonny Hostin. And you get Hostin in there kind of explaining to her, how can you vote against your interests? How can you? Well, they're not my interests. And that's the response that you get from Navarro. And you're seeing that, I think, more and more, because it is very difficult to sell a message that leads to socialism to people who have already been down that road, especially by force.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, during the last presidential election, there was a little side story that took place here in South Florida that really reflects that. Kamala Harris was making a visit down here, and she did an unscheduled stop at a Venezuelan restaurant. Came in, photo op, glad-handing people, and as soon as she left, there was almost an immediate backlash. The Venezuelan customers started raging at the owners, basically, saying, "What is she doing here? We don't want socialism here." And the owner, by the 6 o'clock news, was disavowing her visit to his restaurant because of this backlash. And it's all because they didn't organize this ahead of time. She just thought, I'd come in and people are going to love me. And the Venezuelan customers were like, we don't want this here. And it became basically a small PR problem for the Democrats. It was just emblematic of their approach to the Hispanic community. They just assume they're going to be loved. They don't think it through and plan ahead.
Brad, when they don't get into all those nuances of different communities, different backgrounds, are they guilty of just simply overthinking this is all about immigration?
I'd say that's part of it, because the Democrat Party tends to just make assumptions. Oh, Hispanics are going to be on the side of this issue. But I live in South Florida, and I know plenty of native-born or transplanted Hispanics. They're in favor of legal immigration, not illegal.
Right.
And in fact, we saw this play out with the episode of the Martha's Vineyard flight that Ron DeSantis orchestrated.
Mm-hmm.
The press tried to build that into a huge controversy, but one of the polls that came out immediately after showed more Hispanics supported him in that move than opposed it. And that shocked a lot of people in the Democrat Party. They were like, wait, what? Like 53% said they were in favor of what he did, of Hispanics. That blew their mind. That they did not even see that coming. It's just another indication of how they just assume how Hispanics will vote or operate as opposed to talking to them and learning what they want.
I think to some degree they are aware of some of the complications, and because I always thought that was one of the reasons that Kamala Harris, in addition to just general ineptitude, the fact that she went to El Paso instead of one of the highly conflicted border areas, I think that was by design, because I think she probably knew she wouldn't be popular if she went to one of the places that was actually overrun.
Yeah, that was part of it, yeah. Because where it is, this is a problem that they've created. I mean, when
Joe
Biden came into office, he had, 40 or so executive orders that he signed in the first week or two. 1/4 of those were all border-related, repealing the policies that Donald Trump had put into place. And that basically opened the floodgates. So she's not going to show up there and address the problem that they had created. And they kind of recognize that part of it, but they also don't recognize other parts, because they're kind of under the assumption that all these people coming across are going to become Democrat automatically. And that's not the case. We've seen that in Florida with the Puerto Rican contingent.
Mm-hmm.
When Hurricane Maria hit, for instance, we had a flood of people come over as a result. They had to flee the destruction, and they settled here in Florida. And there was talk that this was going to swing the state of Florida blue. Rick Wilson of the Lincoln Project, for instance, said this. He said 100,000 Puerto Ricans were going to change the complexion of the state. But what he doesn't realize, and I wrote at the time, Puerto Ricans had been coming over here for a better part of a decade already, fleeing the economic problems on their island that the Democrats created. So all the professionals, the educators and such, they had already migrated to states and in Florida, and they tend to register independent when they do this because they don't want to reinstill the very problem they were getting away from. And sure enough, the very next election, Bill Nelson, who was our senator, comes from Orlando, the big center enclave of Puerto Ricans. The 3 counties around Orlando are very heavy Puerto Rican. He lost that election because he didn't get that automatic support he was counting on there. And that's just another indication of the Democrats making assumptions and not looking at these groups. They look at them as one entity, and that's their biggest mistake.
Brad Slager wrote the article, As Florida is Poised to Become the Bellwether of Hispanic Voter Flight to the GOP, Democrats are Unraveling, and you can find that at redstate.com. Brad, I've got time for just another question, last minute or so that we've got, is what are the lessons to be learned? Is this, obviously the dynamics in Florida are unique to Florida like every state, but are there any lessons for the rest of the country, for the Republicans, for conservatives, and obviously as a converse, that would be a lesson to the Democrats as well over what's happening in Florida and the Hispanic vote?
I would primarily say approach it from that standpoint of individual cultures, because what they're trying to do, one of the ways that Democrats are unraveling is that they treat this Hispanic flight as, if you look at the excuses they make, all of them are designed to make the Hispanic voter sound ignorant. They're being fooled by QAnon, misinformation on Spanish radio, and all these, they're basically saying the Hispanics are being tricked into voting for a racist party, and they're insulting the group that they're trying to win back. Meanwhile, the GOP is appealing to them on an individual basis. Venezuelans, they address the problems in their country. Puerto Rico, what are their needs here in the States compared to the island? Cuban Americans have their own set of needs and policies. And the GOP, at least in Florida, has been doing that for years, and it's showing the effects today.
All right, Brad Slager, redstate.com. You can find his work there. Hey, Brad, really appreciate the time this morning.
Absolutely. Had a good time. Thanks, Mike.
All right, you got it. 314-912-1019. It's almost like looking at individuals as individual and looking at what government should and should not be doing for them or to them.
I like that he told us to have a good time.
Yeah, that's right. Interesting.
That was nice.
Yep, interesting one there. All right, this is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
Making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that now? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin God. Get up, what are you waiting for? Get up.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
You want to give me more information?
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. 55 northbound is jammed between Weber Road and Gasconade for construction work that has the roadway reduced to 2 lanes. Expect about a 6-minute delay in that area. 270 northbound jammed between Gravois and Doherty Ferry. 70 westbound downtown from 5564 to St. Louis Avenue. Construction work has the roadway jammed. That's about an 8-minute delay. 40 westbound, stop and go traffic, Hampton to Big Bend. Want to save big on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Shop Blindster now and save 45% off any order. Just use the code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Shop today. Blindster.com. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Colombo here for Agers Heating and Air Conditioning. We trust Agers with our home because their number one priority is doing right by the customer. Temperatures are changing outside, and as we transition from warmer temps to cooler ones, if you have any issues keeping your family comfortable, don't wait. Call the great team at Agers so they can address the issue before it gets worse. Because whether it's repairs or replacement, Agers is there with the clarity and attention to detail your home deserves. Contact Agers now at 636-242-6515 or through their website, callagers.com.
Oh, Adam, you are so romantic. And I love the kitchen you found with all these great crumbs.
Yeah, baby, only the finest crumbs in the kitchen for my favorite aunt. Oh no, it's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
For $1 a day, if any covered appliance breaks in your home, we guarantee to fix or replace it. All makes and models, washers, dryers, refrigerators, air conditioners, and more. Guaranteed to be fixed or replaced for $1 a day. Call the Home Service Club now for free information.
800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. That's 800-399-3701.
Fox News commentary.
A federal judge ruled top White House officials, including Fauci, must comply with an investigation into the government's alleged collusion with big tech to censor COVID content. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
On 9/11, 2,977 people were killed in the worst terrorist attacks of their kind on American soil. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been supporting America's heroes and their families ever since. Our nation's heroes, people who put their lives on the line for our country and our communities, need your help now more than ever. Join Tunnel to Towers on its mission to do good in their honor. Donate $11 a month at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
You've been at all skeptical of anything COVID related in the last almost 3 years. You know, big tech has been working overtime to keep you from expressing it. Well, the attorneys general from Missouri and Louisiana are calling BS and launched an investigation that could implicate top Biden officials, including Dr. Fauci, into the censorship collusion ring. Leaked documents, emails, and memos show top medical advisors communicating with big tech platforms to censor, silence, and ban people in things that didn't go along with the White House COVID narrative. But now a federal judge ruled to hold them all accountable, or at the very least comply with the investigation. At last, as someone who's been routinely censored by big tech for so much as questioning COVID policy, I hope justice, truth, and transparency finally come a-knocking. The love triangle between big tech, big government, and big pharma is a threat to our republic. I'm Tommy Lahren.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
My point about the governor there, it is absolutely about power.
I read this, I almost fell out of my chair.
News Talk STL.
This thing is just absolutely dripping with irony.
News, analysis, opinion. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
All right. Is there room for an independent movement? I love independent movies. Is there room for independent
Searchlight
voter movement in the country? Tulsi Gabbard was asked, "Are you now going to become a Republican since you're no longer a Democrat?" And so I'm going to start the conversation with what she said to Mike Huckabee on his TV show this week, and we'll get to that around 8:35. I'm Mike Ferguson. It is 8:23. Virginia Kruder from the Daily Wire is in for Gabe today. Thank you, Virginia, for filling in. Gabe's still feeling a little bit under the weather, but I hear Janice taking very good care of him. And then Ken Williams, of course, is here as well. A few news stories that obviously are affecting all of us in the area. We are now finding out that St. Louis police have had several encounters with the murderer who killed 2 people at the Visual and Performing Arts High School this week. At the request of his family, they even took the gun that ended up being the murder weapon. They took that away from him at one point and gave it to somebody else to say, okay, you hold on to this, and somehow that gun got back in the hands of the murderer. Police were called by his family multiple times because of his obvious mental health issues. There were some domestic disturbance calls both this and last year. And in some of the cases, looks like 2 cases, there were no police reports filed by the officers in relation to those calls. And so I say all of that to say that we still have a big void of information as the investigators look to see what happened. So we don't know what we don't know. But earlier this week, we were told this is somebody who said, I have no friends, I have no family, totally isolated. Well, it turns out he does have family, or he did have family, who have been trying to get him help for a long time, and he refused, or for whatever reason, he didn't end up getting the help that would have stopped this. So we have now even more questions than we had 24 hours ago. And 24 hours from now, we're probably going to have more questions than we have right now. So I don't think you change the entire system or process or rules based on one person simply deciding to do a whole bunch of evil, no matter how bad it is. But this is highlighting several parts of what we have in our community and in our society that say, okay, do we look at changing or updating the way that we do some things? And that those are legitimate questions that are being asked. So a lot of questions right there. All right. President Joe Biden says he's going to be protecting your personal finances. He's coming to the rescue is what he's doing, Virginia. Thank goodness for that, that he's going to finally recognize some things are hurting our wallet or hurting our ability to afford life right now.
Right.
Now, he's not going to change his energy policy. I'm not talking about that. No, he's not going to pull back on the reckless spending. I'm talking about he is going after some of those little annoying fees that we get charged.
Some airlines, if you want 6 more inches between you and the seat in front, you pay more money. But you don't know it until you purchase your ticket. Look, folks, these are junk fees. They're unfair, and they hit marginalized Americans the hardest, especially low-income folks and people of color. They benefit big corporations, not consumers.
Okay, first of all, the White House is saying this is going to save American people billions of dollars because we're going after everything from concert ticket fees to airline upgrade fees. But what was that part? Did he just say black people can't manage their airline tickets if they want an upgrade? I mean, did I hear people?
Something
It affects,
like that.
Yeah, it affects people of color more than others. Really, if somebody who is of a racial minority wants a bigger seat and they pay the upgrade, is that affecting them more than it does me?
It's crazy. And here's the real sticking point here for me is one, he's telling private businesses what they can and can't do.
Right.
That's number one. And I'm not okay with that anyway. But then throw this out there. So he's talking about he's going to change so airlines can no longer charge an extra fee for more legroom. What do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to take the loss, or are they just going to raise everybody's ticket prices?
Yeah. And I don't think airlines are the good guys. I mean, by any stretch. I think airlines treat us like cattle.
I think that they overbook flights that they shouldn't, and then they end up,
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they do, but your point is valid though. Is that this is the federal government saying we're 12 days from an election. We better show people that we're fighting for them, and so they're going to say big greedy corporations and they're charging these service fees or convenience or upgrade fees. We're going to go get them. Look at what we're doing for you.
Now, assuming that this is even if they were to implement this right now, and airlines didn't raise the price of tickets to recoup the losses, which they absolutely will. Mm-hmm. They will. Now you're going to pay what? $5-10 less to get home to your family for Thanksgiving or Christmas? Your Christmas dinner is going to cost a lot more than that. Like the increase in cost of your Christmas dinner is going to be more than that. I mean, we talk about inflation, and we talk about, you talk about he's not going to change his energy policy. He's not going to change his economic policy. We keep talking about inflation, and it's this kind of imaginary 8.2 or 8.5 or whatever the percentage is this month. But it's just a number, and people look at that and they think 8%. That's not really that much. Why does it hurt so much when I go to the grocery store? Well, 8% is an average. Mm-hmm. And that average includes all the stuff that nobody is actually buying that's only going up a little bit. You look at things like eggs, flour, sugar, milk. Some of those prices are doubling. Airline travel alone is up like 42%. So to suggest that inflation's only 8%, that's not much. The stuff that you actually have to buy is going up a lot more.
Yeah.
Gas has doubled.
Yeah, the food prices. Obviously.
Food. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They just announced that natural gas is going up 28%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were warned by Spire on that early on. Then they were hoping for 10%, but it looks like it's going to go up. And by the way, those bills are going to start hitting you right around December and January, long after the election. But that's when those higher prices are going to actually be hitting you. Real quick here, in Missouri, early voting is now underway. Mm-hmm. You do not need a reason to vote absentee or vote early like you did before, but you do have to bring your voter ID. And also, Cardinals announced yesterday that Adam Wainwright is coming back for one more season. It will be his 18th season, and then for a lot of sports fans, that's going to be the good news. The bad news is that the Blues lost to the Oilers last night. Final score there was 3-1. All right, just ahead, I'm really curious what people think. You want to be serious about making a difference in American politics or policies? Do you have to pick a side and work through the two-party system, or is there room for an independent voter movement in this country? Let's talk about that right around 8:35 here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on NewstalkSTL.com. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
If
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
Thanks for being my voice in all this.
This is News Talk STL.
There are people out there that feel the way that I feel and say what I say.
Welcome home.
From the News Talk STL newsroom, I'm Joey Vasovich. St. Charles officials want Ameren, Missouri to spend about $40 million to move wells supplying much of the city's drinking water away from groundwater contamination linked to a company substation on Huster Road near 370. Officials also want Ameren to pay for improvements at the city's water treatment plant to remove any contaminants, which could cost another $10 to $20 million. St. Louis's latest concert and event space, the Hawthorne at Washington Avenue and North 23rd Street, will have its grand opening on November 3rd. Marathon Live, a management company based out of Nashville, is behind the project, a 10,000 square foot single-level space named for the Missouri state flower. The Hawthorne will have a standing room capacity of 1,300 people. And in sports, Cardinals president of baseball operations John Mozeliak announced yesterday that hitting coach Jeff Albert, pitching coach Mike Maddox, and bullpen coach Brian Eversgerd will not return for the 2023 season. Mozeliak said the team was prepared to offer Albert a new contract, but he wanted to move on, and Maddox was not fired but wanted to step down. A developer has plans to create an $18 million Negro Leagues baseball museum to honor the St. Louis Stars, the local Negro League team, and black baseball in North St. Louis. The Land Clearance for Redevelopment Authority on Tuesday recommended 15 years of tax abatement for the museum, which would be an affiliate of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. For in-depth coverage of these stories and more, go to NewstalkSTL.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. 70 westbound downtown stop and go from the Poplar Street Bridge to Tucker. This is for construction work in the area. 40 westbound stop and go Hampton to Hanley. 55 northbound is slow between Germania and Gasconade. This is for construction work that has the roadway reduced to 2 lanes. 270 northbound slowing between 44 and Doherty Ferry. And 270 southbound, there's an accident on the ramp from Page. Blindster.com sells custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters that are easy to install at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are custom-made for your windows and are guaranteed to fit. Don't hire a pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Another chilly morning out there. Some frost in some of the colder areas early this morning, but partly cloudy skies and a nice day with a high of about 61 degrees this afternoon. Increasing cloudiness this evening, becoming kind of cloudy late this afternoon and this evening. Lows tonight in the 40s, continue dry and cool on Friday with a high in the mid-60s. Should be good for Friday night football and trunk or treats on Friday evening. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Hey, Columbo here, and many of you know that one of my favorite things to do when I have some free time is to get out on the water and go fishing. And the folks at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton are the people you should see before your next fishing trip. No matter what you're fishing for, they have everything you need, from gear to lures to live bait. Plus, they can even set you up on a guided fishing tour on the Mississippi River. Make sure the tackle box is ready for your next trip by visiting Bluff City Outdoors at 2813 East Broadway in Alton and BluffCityOutdoors.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Kenny Zhu, president of Color Us United.
Race became a profitable industry. That's what happened. Racial victimhood. We all believe in civil rights, but then there are people who actually profit off of racial victimhood in this country. Diversity, equity, and inclusion right now, the new hot thing in companies, is a $10 billion plus industry.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
Life insurance is one of those things that just about everybody needs, but few people actually have. Hey, if you die unexpectedly without life insurance, guess what? You'll leave your family with even a bigger mess. Life insurance will help replace your family's income. It'll help cover burial expenses. Life insurance can even help pay off debt like credit cards and medical bills. Life insurance can even pay for college. And if you own a business and you die, life insurance can help your business from collapsing. It can even help cover estate taxes. Life insurance has never been more affordable and needed. Plus, you can always shop around even if you have a plan and save some money. So call the Life Insurance Quote Line right now for free pricing information.
800-979-3060.
800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. That's 800-979-3060.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
I don't believe the Democrats are stupid, but I think they don't care.
Live and local.
And embarrassed himself at that press conference.
He's become kind of clownish, right?
Do you think he's going to run?
This is News Talk STL. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
All right, mental exercise question.
Okay.
When it comes to politics, obviously we're a week and a half away from an election, and if you want to get something done, you got to work through the party system. You want to affect policies, you want to affect politics, certainly want to affect campaigns, they're partisan campaigns. There's always kind of an underlying push for independents need to have more of a voice, but then an independent can be all over the map. I don't think there are any competent third parties right now. There are none, I think, that have enough organization or money or anything to be able to actually compete and affect outcomes. That's my take. Somebody disagrees, tell me. 314-912-1019. And I wasted years being involved in the Libertarian Party. I mean, I was a candidate on their ballot, at one point.
Right.
I worked for their presidential campaign at one point. But Tulsi Gabbard was on with Mike Huckabee on his television show. And he read off a question from a viewer regarding partisan loyalty since she now announced that she's no longer a Democrat.
Some have asked this question. Do you plan to become a Republican? Is that something you're open to, or you don't have any intention right now of just leaving an independence?
Yeah, it's not something I'm thinking about, to be honest. I will say that I see a lot of fractures in the Republican Party. We were talking about this a little bit before the show. Different people want to move the Republican Party in different directions, but I see potential, and just from my experience, I have been treated with nothing but respect and kindness and openness from a lot of my Republican colleagues in Congress, many of whom I heard from over the last week. Even though we agree or disagree on different things, throughout the time I served with them, they've always been open and again, kind. I can't say the same for a lot of my Democrat colleagues who, if I'm not falling in line with them, am given the cold shoulder.
She's right that there are fractures within the Republican Party.
Sure.
And I think there always have been. They take different forms, different names, and a little bit of a degree that you see that on the left, but they tend to circle the wagons a lot better than the right does, I think.
Right. And those fractures change over time.
Right.
Sometimes they mend a bit and then they get worse, and it's kind of a fluctuation, I think.
So is there a need for, should there be a way for independent voters to flex their muscles both individually or collectively? The reality is we have a party-based system. Should we have a party-based system? I mean, it's no secret many of our founding fathers didn't care for parties at all.
Right.
But here we are.
Yeah, that's true. What I think is interesting is, you ask the question, can independent voters flex their muscles?
Mm-hmm.
They do every election, because you see the hardline Republicans and the hardline Democrats, and they don't change their votes.
Right.
But they don't make up 100% of the electorate. Who changes? The independents. And that's who moves the needle from one side to the other in almost every election. It's the independent voters who drive it. And you see the issues based. And so you see, like in Virginia, they go for Glenn Youngkin because they don't want the state controlling what their children are learning.
Right.
Imagine that, right? Or you see a push away from a specific issue. The abortion issue is going to drive some because you have people that are in the middle. I do think it's interesting that people are asking Tulsi Gabbard if she wants to be a Republican.
Yeah,
though.
she's nowhere near conservative.
She is not. I'll tell you what. I said something about this the other day. Former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard left a leadership role in the DNC to support Bernie Sanders in 2016. She's not campaigning for GOP candidates because she suddenly found conservatism. She's doing it because she never lost her sanity.
Right.
Because the Democrats have gone so far left.
Yeah.
And like she said, they're shutting her out because she's not towing the line. She's not doing exactly what they want. And so obviously they have to. And they've been after her, honestly, since she pissed off Hillary Clinton in 2016. You know, you endorse Bernie over Hillary. She's even said that. They warned me not to go against Hillary, and this is what happened.
Well, she was on that big debate when there were, I think, 4,283 Democratic candidates in that one debate
right.
for president that one time. And then after that, suddenly they wiped out a lot of them. She was, I think, clearly the smartest of all of them. She made the best arguments. Again, she's a liberal. I mean, I disagree with her on a lot of stuff. I think she makes some really good points on some other things. She seems like somebody I could absolutely sit down and have a cup of coffee with and disagree and still have a productive conversation.
Well, like I said, she hasn't lost her sanity. You can still have a conversation with her, whether you agree with her or not. And she's willing to sit down and have a conversation with you, whether she agrees with you or not. And that's the important thing.
During the debates that you're talking about, Mike, she commanded that stage, and they did not like that because that was not their narrative. That was not their agenda that they were going for. We've got Mike on the phone.
Mike, hey, Mike, you're on News Talk STL.
Hey, Mike. And is that Virginia Cruda?
It is.
Yes.
Yep.
It is. Hi, Virginia.
Hi.
I was just going to comment that Mike Ferguson was talking about why there aren't any well-organized third parties, and my comment was that the two-party system is so resilient because it is itself an emergent effect of the incentive structure in American politics, which is 50% plus one gets you, of the input, gets you 100% of the output. You win. And so the incentive is to always build intra-party coalitions in order to defeat the other party. And I think that's why there's some appeal among the electorate around, ranked choice voting or any other scheme just to try to break the gridlock. But there are issues with those as well.
For sure.
In say, European parliamentary politics, there are dozens of political parties, and then they have to form those coalitions across those after they get elected. Whereas here we do it beforehand.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, we lost you just for the last second there, but I think I get what you're saying, Mike. I mean, that's because some people say, hey, look, other countries have multiple parties and it works just fine, but they've got to do all the coalition building. It does keep it interesting, and you've always got to compromise somewhere. And I think the dynamics are right now, a lot of voters aren't sending somebody to Jefferson City or Springfield or Washington, D.C. and say, get out there and compromise. That's just not where our culture is right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, my point was that it was the coalition building occurs before the election within a partisan structure, not afterward, because you need to coalesce and to before the election to get that 50% plus one.
Right.
And that's what drives the two-party system.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. Yeah. All right. Now I get what you're saying. All right. Hey, Mike, I got to get to an information break. Hey, appreciate you being on the program. I mean, you've got Tulsi Gabbard saying, drive it with these policy and outlook and sanity. Andrew Yang says he wants to start a political party, and he's doing it probably the dumbest way possible, which is why it's going to fail and fall flat on its face. But I'll get to that in about 4 minutes here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on NewstalkSTL.com. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. 70 westbound before Branch, construction work has the right lane closed. Stop and go traffic as you approach 44. 55 northbound slowing between Germania and Gasconade. This is for ongoing construction work that has the roadway reduced to 2 lanes in that area. 270 northbound slow traffic between Big Ben and Manchester. And 40 westbound stop and go traffic between Hampton and Bellevue. Blindster.com sells custom custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters that are easy to install at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are custom-made for your windows and are guaranteed to fit. Don't hire a pro, do it yourself, and save big at blindster.com. I'm Kat from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Columbo and Katie.
Thursday marks 12 days to the election, and it's been a busy week as politicians across the country try to earn your vote. We'll talk about it with Crane Durham, and White House correspondent Christian Daytalk joins us at 2:25.
Weekdays at 2 on Newstalk STL.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Packages start at $29.99 a month with signed agreement. Restrictions apply. Speak to a representative for complete offer details. See Vivint.com for license details. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners, if you're looking for the best in home security and smart home technology at a price you can actually afford, we have great news. Now you can get Vivint's award-winning home security systems starting at about $1 a day. U.S. News and World Report has recognized Vivint as the best professionally installed home security system of 2022. And right now, you can get Vivint's home security technology for about $1 a day. Plus, get free professional installation from a licensed technician. Protect your home and loved ones for as low as $1 a day. Call right now for your free home security consultation.
800-561-3405. 800-561-3405. 800-561-3405. That's 800-561-3405.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
Rising crime. Defund the police. It's insane.
News, analysis, opinion.
We cannot afford to lose.
Blowout year for Republicans.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and NewstalkSTL.com.
To me, the best scenario when it comes to our political debates is conservatives and libertarians debating over how we're going to make government as small as possible. That to me is a dream come true, but that's not where we are in this country. We've got Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals debating as to how big we're going to make government is what's happening on this. And so the reason we brought this up is because Tulsi Gabbard famously now, left the Democratic Party. She can't support it anymore. She is one of those, rare people who she is left of center. I mean, a lot of people like she needs to run for, run for vice president on the Republicans with whoever it is, Trump, DeSantis, whoever. And I'm thinking, that she's actually beyond center left. I mean, she just happens to be somebody who is willing to listen to other people on this. I have a lot
there's value in that.
I have a lot of respect for Tulsi Gabbard because she's very, very honest where she is. She's come to her conclusions of whether I agree or disagree, obviously from a lot of thought. But I asked the question, I said, is it possible for independent voters? Because she said, she was asked, are you going to become a Republican? As though we think that, well, I'm not a Democrat, therefore I must be a Republican. Mm-hmm. And others will say, well, are you a Republican? And somebody may say, well, I'm pretty conservative, but I'm not really a Republican, or I'm pretty libertarian. I'm not a big R Republican. Well, therefore you might as well be a Democrat. Well, that's just silly. Every survey I've seen over years and years says that, generally between a third and sometimes up to 40% of the voters don't identify with one particular party. So why is it that we have to go through the parties to make any sort of difference in politics and policy?
I'm an independent, but I would never vote for a Democrat. I just don't align with anything that they have to say to me. But I got to tell you, the thing that we need in this country isn't three-party system. We just need to clean house. And we were talking about that off the air. But and that's not going to really happen realistically, at least in the short term here. But as far as Republicans and Democrats, I throw them all in the same boat.
Why can't it happen, though? I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying, but why not? I mean,
because the apparatus is so large and the government is so big and they're spending so much of our money. I mean, it is so big. They're not working for us. I mean, we can say that all we want. The Constitution guarantees it. Oh, sure, they're working for. No, they're not.
Well, I mean,
they control us.
Look no further than San Francisco. I mean, Nancy Pelosi has been in office for how long?
Oh my God!
And people complain about term limits and her
175 years.
People complain about and I kind of agree with Ted Cruz said something a few years ago that I really resonated with me. People talk, we need term limits. We need term limits. No, we don't. We have term limits. They're called elections.
Yeah.
And until the people are willing to say, okay, I'm going to vote for somebody different. If they're still voting for Nancy Pelosi, they're going to, if they term limit her out, they're going to vote for somebody just as bad.
Well, perfect example. Vic talks about this all the time. In St. Louis, they haven't had a Republican leader in St. Louis since 1949.
Yep.
Okay. And no matter what happens in this town, no matter how screwed up it gets, no matter how it becomes the number one murder city in the country.
Hey, number 2.
Okay, now for the moment,
we just lost number 1.
Right.
To who?
They
New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah. They vote Democrat.
And the cycle from that is that Republicans don't even hardly run candidates anymore. And so now you've got the St. Louis City Republican Party, which is on an upswing in recruiting and activity, and they're actually working, but they know that they've got years and years and years of work to build that organization because they've been told you're not welcome here. So how bad does it have to get before enough people say, well, things really suck. I guess I should give someone else a chance?
Apparently really bad.
Apparently a really, really long time. There are literally 0 Republicans on the board of aldermen in St. Louis City.
Yeah.
Listener Peter's on the line.
Peter, all right, Peter, you're on News Talk STL.
I think kind of what you're saying, that everything is just too big and nothing is working for anybody at this point is very true. And I think just the solution to that is not necessarily breaking out or, recognizing, or not necessarily creating more parties, but recognizing the parties that there are, because there are other options out there. I think the correct, in my opinion, the way to go about that would be, you go in and you have 2 options when you go into at least out here you do, when you go in the primaries and everything else. You have a Republican ticket, you have a Democrat ticket. Why not have whatever, say independent, therefore there's an independent ticket. If there's somebody who registered like Bernie Sanders as, a Democratic Socialist or whatever he wants to call himself, that party, then there's that ticket. And let the primaries decide whatever party there is out there be, the representation of that party. And then when you go to the final, the November election, everybody is on that ticket.
I'm not following. I mean, that's the way it is right now.
A lot of times, you may not have like a libertarian primary ballot, but a lot of times that libertarian candidate will be on the general election. They just won't have a primary because they often don't.
Exactly.
I mean, but you can go in. At least, are you on the Missouri side or Illinois side?
I'm on the Missouri side.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you go in, if you should be able to pick Libertarian, Constitution, Independent, Republican, Democrat, you can pick that in the primary. They should always have those ballots there.
Well, I mean, just in my experience, I've never seen an option besides those 2. And even when I lived in Kansas, it was the same way. But basically, you had Republican or Democrat. And I think part of that might just be that no one filed in those races as anything other than that. But I think that if people would actually file as something else, it would give a bigger, more it'd open up the doors to more options, I think.
Yeah, okay, so I actually, years and years and years ago, was on a committee appointed by Missouri's Secretary of State, who at that time was Matt Blunt, regarding elections, and I was on what was called the Help America Vote Act. We actually ran into problems around the state where local precincts would only put out Republican and Democrat because they figured nobody wants the other third parties. And so people were saying, well, wait a minute, what about this party? And they either didn't have it or they went, oh, yeah, dig it out of that box. They're not supposed to do that. That's actually against the law. If there is anybody on a ballot that you could vote for, whether it's a statewide office or anything like that, they're required to have that. And they're not supposed to ask you Republican or Democratic ballot. They're supposed to say which ballot if there are more than two that are available. So you may have run across something where the precinct was doing it wrong.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Or like you said, nobody filed in those particular.
Yeah.
That's also
but even
possible.
if there's somebody who's filed in a U.S. Senate race, or something like that,
right,
then it's supposed to be there. But you can actually forego the party ballots and just get an independent one if you just want to vote on, referendums or constitutional amendments or things like that. You can actually do that. You just don't get a say in the primaries as well. All right, we've got an information break. Peter, appreciate you being on the program. Okay, we got to come back to visit this. This is a fascinating conversation here as well. Vic Porcelli is coming your way in just about 5 minutes or so, right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Virginia, appreciate you pinch hitting for Gabe, who was still feeling a little bit under the weather. So
thanks, Virginia.
What everybody is wondering is, will Gabe be back, and therefore will there be a Not Today Satan segment tomorrow?
Everybody's asking.
You have to tune in tomorrow to find out. Either way. But I do know that Vic Porcelli is coming your way just ahead right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
The good and bad with home improvement projects. The good, you save a buck or two. The bad,
Kevin, there's no hot water.
so you move on to the car.
Kevin, what's with the car?
Good news, you can recover from these.
Kevin!
Well, most all of them. But when it comes to your retirement, a mistake can be devastating. Call Steve All and the All Financial Group. They've been helping folks plan for retirement for years. That's why they've been able to correct do-it-yourself problems before they're problems. Get your complimentary assessment of where you are now and look at some of the retirement boxes you haven't even thought of.
Kevin!
You can't YouTube your retirement. Call Steve today, 636-230-8824. That's 636-230-8824. Get more details at yourmoneymattersstl.com.
Investment advisory services offered through All Financial Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuity products offered through Stephen All, Missouri license 8039738.
The Angie's List you know and trust is now Angie, and we're so much more than just a list. We still connect you with top local pros and show you ratings and reviews, but now we also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie, and we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
We tried Dynovite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at NewstalkSTL.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Moderate economic growth July through September. The real growth